Yo, what's up everybody? Welcome back to The Get Down. This is Beats Season 3, Episode 8. So we're in the professional studio again, so I'm not going to fuck around too much, wasting time. I just want to thank Wills for coming on last week. Killer conversation, killer interview. I hope everyone out there learned something from it and is putting a bit of gratitude into your life and being grateful for what you have, not what you don't have. So, yeah, really, really positive. Thanks for coming on, mate. Look forward to building with you. Also, thank you, everyone, for the Dry July donations. It does run through August, so for all those people who didn't donate, you still can. I see you look at my stories and just scroll on by. Not good enough. Put $5 in there. Thank you. It's not for me. It's for the McGrath Foundation. So let's go. Let's get it up to 500. Bit of a mad dash yesterday, and thank you to the anonymous person who said I have a sexy voice. Sit on the speaker, and I'll do this. Oh yeah, I'm just playing. Okay, so this week on The Get Down, we are going to sidestep away from hip hop for a moment again and engage in some positive conversation that encourages putting work into the greatest asset we have in life, which is ourselves. I met tonight's guest at my gym after having a discussion about the use of ayahuasca and the benefits of partaking in that act. I discovered that tonight's guest was an author, had spent over a decade in the armed forces, and is a motivational speaker. I must admit, due to my latest promise to myself to only surround myself with positive people, I was very drawn to him and his positive outlook and willingness to share his knowledge. I'm glad to have met him and look forward to learning from him right now as he sits opposite me. Listeners, please welcome to The Get Down, Mr. Ritchie Gibson. Ritchie, thanks for coming on the show, mate. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me, Jay.
You're all, we're both sweating it up. We just left the gym and had a workout and been in. Did you have a sauna?
I did.
You did, so did I. And it takes me hours.
What a great way to finish and complete your workout.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
It was the best.
I was reading recently about the benefits of having a sauna, and it reduces the risk of heart attack by 51%.
Wow.
So they're pretty good odds, man, if you're a gambling man.
That doesn't surprise me. The benefits of a sauna and steam and, you know, in this day and age, everyone seems to know what the Wim Hof method is and ice baths and then you throw a sauna into there for lactic acid removal and dispersal throughout the body. Yeah. We live in an age, I read something the other day that said if you live at this very moment in time, you have won a lottery ticket in the history of evolution.
Yeah.
Because there's never been a time where we've been able to travel so freely. There's never been more money. Money is abundant. There's never been more luxuries to be able to communicate. And there's a whole plethora of other things, but when you really think about it, it's true.
Yeah.
We live in an age that we know of that we're extremely lucky, and we've won a lottery ticket in the history of evolution. And if you slip into that mindset, all of a sudden you slip into a mindset of gratitude and appreciation. And for me, that's the number one goal daily in life, because if I slip into that mindset of gratitude and appreciation, that's exactly what I'm trying to attract.
Yeah.
So it's I call it a perpetual loop. You see, and I know of people that have been stuck in a perpetual loop for a period of time, and it's really, really hard to lead a positive life when you surround yourself with negativity, and they're stuck, and everything just doesn't seem to be working out for them, and they're just in this perpetual loop of negative energy, and that's exactly what they're attracting. Whereas I've known people that have had no money at all, and that are extremely happy, but and they're in the perpetual loop of gratitude and appreciation, where they know that their life can't be any better because they're living their best life. So that's what I try and create every single day.
Good. Do you think it's going to be better or worse in the future? Like with you saying we won a lottery ticket to be here right now. Do you think it's going to get too crazy with the ability? Like, you think about being a kid these days, and I'm sure we're going to delve into this anyway, but you look at TikTok and Instagram and having a PlayStation, having a TV, having all this, and that instant dopamine hits like that, bang, I can access this. So when, I guess you might be around my age, maybe even a little bit older, if we were friends as kids and I wanted to hang out with you, there were phones, but you sure as fuck weren't allowed to use them.
No, that's right.
So we would have to ride to your house, Get there, Richie's not home. They might have gone to little Johnny's house. Boom, right to little Johnny's house. So you've exercised, you've had anticipation, you've had time to think to yourself while you're going there. Nowadays, these kids can pick up a phone, group chat, what's going on, where are you? There's no more meet you at the Ferris wheel if you get lost. It's just so...
It is harder, but I always think back to every single generation thought they had it best. So my parents used to turn around and say, I feel sorry for your generation with the music that you listen to, and, you know, not being able to do this and do that. And I'm sure their parents said the same thing to them. So we look at the generation that are primarily our listeners, I'm assuming, for this podcast. Yeah. And, I don't like to put labels on things like that and turn around and go, well, they're a bit worse off, and where do you think the future is? Because one of the things I say to my mentees is you literally do not know what's going to happen in 5 minutes' time. Yeah. You've got a pretty good idea, but every single person that died yesterday had plans for today. So we just don't know.
Shit.
That is why it is so important to live your best possible life, you know, and I think I've mentioned to you previously at the gym, my wife and I are planning a 12-month lap around of Australia, and it's coming up. We're only about 8 weeks away, and the name of the trip is the Busy Living Tour. Simply, I got that. I ripped that from The Shawshank Redemption, and if you haven't seen The Shawshank Redemption, it'll...
Andy Dufresne.
Oh, how good. How good. What a great movie. And there's a line in there where he says, it's a simple choice, really. You're either busy living or you're busy dying, so get busy living. Yeah. And that's really resonated with me. And I said to my wife, if we ever owned a boat or a caravan, I think I'd call it busy living, because that's what you're doing. You're busy living, you know. And sometimes we get caught up in I call it the treadmill of life, you know, that work-life balance and trying to make everyone else happy. And it's a really tough slog. But sometimes you've just got to turn around and go, am I busy living or am I busy dying? And that's normally a question that you ask yourself, and you go, okay, time for an honest answer. Yeah. And everyone's going to be different. But for me, you know, there is 100% chance you will die.
Oh, yeah.
You don't get better odds than that. So it's
pretty high risk, this thing we're living.
And if you paint a metaphoric picture and you say death is coming for you as we speak right now. No one knows where it is, but it's on its way.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, the analogy I use is, if I came into this podcast and I gave you a beautiful box, it's gift wrapped, it's got a beautiful bow on it, and I said, here's a gift for you. And you put it to the side and say, thanks, Rich, I really appreciate that. But you never opened it. Hey, Jay, did you open that box? Oh, no, 3 months on, I still haven't opened it. 12 months, have you opened that gift? No, mate, I've just been too busy. That's what life is. Life is a gift. And what we do is we just put it to the side and we put it on hold. And I've got a sign that I've just stenciled on the back of my caravan, and it says, the biggest risk of all, the risk of spending your life not doing what you want on the bet that you can buy yourself the freedom to do it later.
Shit.
We work from 15, 17, 18 years of age to 65, 70 years of age. And so we live, 32% of our waking life is done in an occupation. Yeah. Then we sleep for about a third of our life. Yeah. So where are you actually living and enjoying your life? And that's what you're here to do. But people get so caught up into a materialistic and a mindset of money. And the biggest one is the comparison game and that weight of expectation. Wow, my brother just bought a $90,000 Audi. I thought I'd be a bit further on. Yeah. I thought I'd be here. I thought I'd be out of debt. And so we start to compare ourselves to our family and our peer group, and that leads to the weight of expectation, which comes from our family, our parents especially. But we don't actually lead the life that we want to lead. And as soon as we take that step back and go, wow, am I busy living?
Well, unless there's a bomb in that box.
Everything's with good intentions, my friend.
I couldn't help thinking that when you were saying it. I'm like, what's in this fucking box?
See, you default to a negative mindset. Yeah, that's programming and conditioning. Yeah. That's a whole different podcast.
we'll get there. Ironically, I just read recently down in South Australia where I'm from, just briefly, there was a bloke's just been charged, Dominic Pierre. He's just been charged with sending a letter bomb to a police officer.
Wow.
And he killed him back in it must be early 90s.
Right.
And they've known for a long time. They locked him up and he got out, and they've been watching him. They just got him.
Wow.
Just pinched him for it. So, yeah.
Wow.
Bit of a side thing there. All right.
We digress.
Yeah, we did. So, listeners, as you can tell, Ritchie's pretty intense and pretty passionate about what he does in life and how he lives his life. I'm actually holding a copy of a book that Ritchie wrote, and I'm reading it. That's how far through I am.
You're doing
so
well, mate.
I'm not. It's a small book that I could have read. There we go. Quite easily I could have read it, but it's not one of those books. It's not a story. It's not. It's not something I almost don't want to finish it. You know, like I get there and I'm like, it's like the never ending story where he puts it down. No, there's still a long way to go.
Yeah.
You know, so it's quite a
Thank you.
quite a journey. It's pretty amazing.
There's a lot of how in there.
Yeah, well, I do. That's why I stop. I stop and then go about my day. You know, so where I'm at the moment is the momentum.
Oh yeah.
You know, do I have momentum? And I've got a lot of momentum in my life. So I'm reluctant to even go past that chapter.
It's odorless, it's colourless, and it's tasteless. But once you get it, you know you've got it because you've
100%.
taken that step forward, and things are so much easier. I always say, so much easier to save $100 or money once you've got money in the bank account. If you've got $5,000 in the bank account, so easy to save once you've got a platform and a foundation and you've got momentum. But it's so much harder to build wealth from a base of nothing. So momentum in life, it's about taking that first step, you know, and then we can talk about compounding, and that's something that I absolutely love. You know, the micro improvement cycles and improving things by 1% every single day to become a better version of yourself, and then you turn around with the benefit of hindsight, and you look back and you've got an amazing life, or you've built an amazing life, but you did it rather than setting out to build that Great Wall of China. You know, and every single day life will punch you in the face.
Yeah.
There'll be some type of roadblock, adversity, obstacle in your way. And what that does when you have such a monumental goal, it stops momentum as soon as life punches you in the face. And it will, most days. So instead of going, right, I want to lose this much weight or I want to do this, and it's such a monumental goal like a Great Wall of China, you just have to reframe it in your brain, and you turn around and you go, right, today I'm going to lay one brick the very, very best I can.
There it is.
And tomorrow I'm going to and then with the benefit of hindsight, you look back after 12 months and you go, wow, I've got a wall. But you didn't intend to do that. You just did the best you can with a goal and a plan in mind. You need a blueprint. You know, I always say a pilot doesn't get into a plane and fly to New Zealand and go, rightio, boys, let's go. There's a detailed flight plan. There's a detailed blueprint. A builder doesn't build your house and just start laying bricks. There's a detailed blueprint.
And the education prior
100%.
to be able to read those blueprints.
Of course.
I posted up, the reason I said there it is I posted up on my social media today, one brick at a time.
I love it.
And because I've really been sort of using that since we've spoken about that. That one was a verbal gem you gave me, and I'm like, okay, one brick at a time. How am I feeling today? What can I do? And the other leadership program, the self-help thing I've been doing with Jeffrey Morgan as well. So it's all sort of tying in, and that, what can I do? I'm tired. Can I just lie here, or should I spring out of bed?
Yeah.
Bang, spring out of bed. There's one brick.
Good.
You know, and
Good.
then what am I going to choose to eat today? Eat healthy. Am I going to have breakfast healthy, or am I going to be, have a shitty breakfast? Healthy breakfast, second brick. So bang, bang, bang. So you can compartmentalize it into the day.
Yep.
And then once that day is done, in my mind, that day is a brick.
Think of a wheel that's broken up into segments, a bit like an orange. So every segment is a part of your life. And this is where most people go wrong with life. They lose balance. So what you're saying is you lay one brick the very best you can in one of those segments, and then you'll lay another brick in another segment. And it could be health and fitness. It could be relationships. It could be friendships. It could be education. It could be your form of spirituality, whatever that is. But we have all these different quadrants. The problem that we face is when we get so obsessed with work and we start to work long hours and things like that, we've only got 24 hours in a day. So the work or something will pull you away from a relationship. So something's got to give. So the key and one of the biggest things that I teach is balance, balance and accountability, because people don't have that, and they lose that balance and they're working 14, 16 hours a day and they wonder why they're getting a divorce or their relationship breaks up. So everything has to be in balance, and it's easier said than done, but we have to default to don't get so busy making a living that you forget how to make a life, and we do that because we're programmed. Yeah,
that's a good one. Is that one of yours? We might backtrack a little bit. I know you said you don't want it to be about you, but just to get some context, can we have a bit of, I say we, the listeners and myself, can we find out a little bit about your childhood, where you grew up, what your family dynamic was like, etc.? Because I'm a little bit aware of it, but people who don't know you are not.
Sure. I grew up in Sydney.
Yep.
Actually, I am now living on the Sunshine Coast. I've been here for just under 3 years, and I've never, ever lived further than like 10 k's from a capital city. I've always lived in and around the city.
Right.
And now that I've had a coastal or a regional change, depending on how you'd like to label it, I don't think I'll ever go back. It's just it's a different mentality, a different feel. I don't miss that anxiety and the busyness of a city.
Rat race.
Yeah, not at the age I'm at anymore. My mentality shifted there. But I grew up in Sydney. I had a very loving family. I think every single person in the world has some type of dysfunctional upbringing, some worse than others. There was a history of alcoholism in my family, which led to domestic violence, and some things you can't unsee. But, sometimes you get to choose. You get to choose the path you go down. You get to choose whether you want to go down that path and use that as an example for your life, or you go, no, that's not what I want. I want to be better than that. And so I use that as a step up and a tool to be able to motivate me to be able to become the best version of myself every day. And still to this day, I don't really drink very much. And I don't know if that's a deep underlying subconscious program because of the upbringing I've seen. My brothers are the same. But yeah, it was, like you said, we played out in the streets until the street lights came on, and then we got called in. Got hit by a few cars when I was a kid. I've been to the circus and back, and had plenty of injuries, plenty of time in hospital. And my wife is pretty unique because she's 43, but she's never really been to a hospital. She's never really been to a doctor. And me, I've been cut up and butchered, and and I've had this done and that done, and so. Going back to your question, it was with the benefit of hindsight, I think it was a relatively tough upbringing, but I also believe that it shaped me to be the person that I am. So I've said to you before, you can either there's a line in life. So if you draw a line, you either get to choose whether you're a victim or a victor. Yeah. And if you think below the line, you're a victim. And you finger point, you lay blame. It's never your problem. It's never your fault. You never take accountability. And that's a really easy place to be, but you become an energy vampire. You suck the energy out of people, and people don't want to be there or be around you. So I choose, and it's my choice, to think above the line. So I see a problem, and every day life will issue you some type of problem. See the problem, fix the problem, solve the problem, and get on with it. And take accountability. What I've written in my book is, the biggest problem is society perceives failure as a negative. And I said in my book, and I picked a fight with this, and I said, society is wrong. Failure is not a negative. Failure is an absolute positive. Have a look at anyone that succeeded or perceived they've succeeded in their life, and they'll tell you it's because they failed so many times. They landed on their ass, they put their hand up, they took accountability, they learnt their lesson, because if they didn't learn their lesson, it was no longer mistake. It becomes a conscious choice because you should have learnt the first time. So you learn from your mistakes and you get on with it, and you're an energy giver, and people want to be around you. People feel energized when they're around you. So that's the path that I choose, and I could wallow in my pity party and go, well, it's not fair. And I know people that do that. It's just a choice that I decide to make and go, no, it's not for me. And I remember I was going back to childhood. I was in year 10, and I was the smallest kid in my form. And obviously our listeners can't see me, but I'm 6'2". But
We'll
I was
put photos up, mate.
Yeah, thank you, mate. And I was a really small, tiny, skinny kid, and I got bullied. And so my brother was a boxer, my dad was a boxer, so that inspired me to take up boxing, and that's something that I learnt, and that's a skill. And I know that you do mixed martial arts, so it's a skill that builds your own self-confidence as well. So you never want to use it, but if you do, you know that you're at least armed to do something, you know. But that really had an impact on me too, with regards to being a kid and getting bullied at school. So, but you can either, once again, make that choice and let it cut you down, or you can use it to make you stronger. And I had a motorbike accident, a really, really bad one when I was 19. And I was coming home from boxing training, and I got T-boned. I T-boned a car. I was on a motorbike. Jeez. And I was in a pretty bad way, had open fractures on my radius and the ulnar. They snapped and busted out my wrist.
Is that a scar there?
Yeah, it's a pretty big
Jesus.
one. My knee went through the passenger side window, and I was a bit of a mess, to be honest, and I went into severe shock and flatlined and, all that stuff. And I remember my dad turning around to me, who had a really old type mentality, an industrial age mentality, and he wanted his boys to be strong. He wanted his boys to be tough and to be able to survive in the world. And he turned around to me, I remember, because I was eating roast beef and peas and potatoes. And he said, you can forget about the army, and you can't even use your wrist. You can't even do a push-up, so forget about that. And I remember there and then going, watch me.
Yeah.
And that, I've learnt, has been the motivator for my life. When anyone...
That you're defiant, or you can't accept people saying that you can't do something?
Well, I just think that it was extremely negative. He turned around and he goes, you can't do that. And my old man, I don't know, I never got to ask him this question, but maybe he was using it as a form of motivation. Who knows? Maybe it was just his conditioning and his programming, and he meant it. I don't know. I'll never know. But it's been a real, that conversation was a real definitive focus for me to go, I'll show you. And any time, and some of my mates laugh about this, they turn around and they go, oh, you can't do that, knowing this story. And I'm like, okay, really? Okay, all right, let's do this. And you feel like that you grow another level. You're almost wearing a cape and you've got a superpower. So I love that. I'm moving away from it now because it doesn't serve me as much anymore, because I don't feel like I need to prove myself. I'm really dissolving my ego. There's things that I'm working on as I'm moving towards the back nine of my life, if you want to use a golf analogy, that I'm trying to work on. And that's not one of them where I have to go and prove myself to someone,
That's a funny one, because I have a 23-year-old daughter and a 9-year-old, going on 10-year-old son. And sometimes you want to give that. Like a lot of people like me, a lot of successful people say they had a really tough father. Whereas I'm like, you can do anything you want, son. And that's what I was told a lot by my stepfathers. You can do this, you can do that. And then my stepfather died when I was 13, and I was like flapping in the wind. But I'd tell my son, you can do this, you can do that. And then sometimes I feel like challenging him, going, you're never going to be able to do that, but I don't want to shut him down. It's a bit of a... It's
a fine line.
Fine line, that one.
Sometimes you need tough love. And I've got 2 kids of my own, and I say to them all the time, I am your dad now, but I wish I was bringing you up now, because I'm a better version of myself. I'm smarter. I'm better educated. I'm more patient. I'm more worldly. Whereas when I brought them up, I was a kid. I was 20 years of age, and all I had as a grounding was what my father taught me. So I was very, very strict and tough on them. But it served them well. They're both amazing human beings, and they're great at what they do, and they're great parents. So
you're a grandfather.
It's
good, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's something that you don't hear that often, but you're right. It's true. But there's this perception of a grandfather, and I shake my head and I tilt my head sometimes and go, oh yeah, I am. Better get busy living, because I'm running out of time.
I'm like that. I tell people all the time I'm a grandfather. They're like, say what?
They
just don't believe me.
And
I'm like, here she is. Have a look. And it's good. It's good to be like, and I'm not that. You didn't have kids that young. I had my daughter at 22 and she had her daughter at 20. So I was a grandfather, you know, I don't know, what's the maths on that? I'm 45 now and I got a 3-year-old granddaughter, so 42.
And you're getting better with age.
Yeah.
You are. You certainly are, my friend.
I know, I'm reversing. I was telling you, I got my bloods back and they said your diabetes, if we had have never seen you here before, we would have no incentive to warn you about diabetes.
Wow,
and so I'm off all medication. I'm just.
Can I ask you a question? I don't know, it's your podcast, but what was the catalyst for that? There has to be a bottleneck or a catalyst because I'm sure there's other people that are listening that have got a disease or an ailment or something they're suffering from, or even diabetes, and you go, well, what was the catalyst that?
I've done it before. I've seen the results. Here we go. I've seen the results before by going plant-based diet and reversing my diabetes, and then I slipped, went right back. So this one was I won't say. So someone I love dearly has got breast cancer at the moment. So that was a bit of a thing for me to sort of just go, wow, you know, that's like what's going to happen tomorrow, we don't know.
Yes.
So I started the sobriety thing, and then the healthy eating, and then I went into this program, this Cut the Bullshit program with Jeffrey Morgan. I had him on as a guest, did it as a social experiment, did not realise how much I needed it.
Awesome.
Like really needed that kick in the ass. And then there was a lot of motivation there, just wanting to feel better, my granddaughter, wanting to be able to run around with her, my injuries, wanting to just like, I've got to do something, something's got to give here, and I want to live longer for my kids. So that was it.
Anthony Robbins, probably the catalyst, a massive catalyst for change for me was I read Unleash the Power Within. It was a long time ago. And he says there's two things that govern human behaviour. One is pleasure and one is pain. And what we do is we move to whatever we perceive to be pleasure, and we move away from whatever we perceive causes us pain. And he said the only time that you'll ever make a change in your life is when the pain becomes so great that you go, that is it. Whether it's smoking, drinking, alcohol, relationships, whatever it is, when you hit that tipping point where the pain becomes so great, you go, that is it. And he said most people live in no man's land. No man's land is where you're not happy, but you're not unhappy enough to change.
Yeah. And
he says, and then that pain point becomes so strong, that's where you go, no more. That is it. I'm not going back there. And it sounds like you hit that pain point and you've gone, I need to make some changes. And sometimes I always say that painful endings are the start of beautiful new beginnings. So sometimes when you go through that adversity, you're meant to go through it to create that pain so you can make the change, so you can shift to be back on the path that you're meant to be on. So that's a tough one to get around. And sometimes when adversity strikes and we're doing it tough, it's hard to get into that mentality and think positive and go, this is happening for a reason, I just have to batten down. But if you can get into that mentality and think of that adversity or that pain as a positive, and you'll come through this and really keep an eye out for the lesson, I think you'll be well served.
In here, again, eat lunch. I've got to turn that off. In your book, Marilyn Monroe, sometimes things fall apart so that better things can fall together.
Oh, I love that.
You know, I really like. See, I've got to stick it.
Yeah, I love that.
I post-it note there. I really like that one too, and there's a bit of irony around that one in my personal life, but I'm not going to go and share it on here. But yeah, so sometimes, you know, and I love the whole, you got to break a few eggs to make an omelette.
Yeah,
I love that one because, and that's just true in everything. Like, if you got to clean your room, you got to fucking make a mess first. Yeah, you know, and then throw things out. So life's one big metaphor, isn't it?
Well, I've just finished a book called Awareness by Anthony DeMello. Highly recommended. I read a lot. Yeah. And this was a book that I highly recommend. And he turns around and he said, all human suffering stems from attachment, an attachment to an idea, an attachment to a preconceived conception, and attachment to materials. You know, I love my car, and
yeah,
I love my house, I love my furniture. And to be honest with you, because we're about to do this trip, the book was a real catalyst for us to go that one step further and turn around and say, let's sell everything.
Did you sell your house?
Well, we sold when we left Brisbane to move up the Sunshine Coast. So, but we're selling everything. Anything that's big, like furniture-wise, we're selling. And
because they're anchors.
They are. And I just want to feel, and I did this back in 2003, and with the benefit of hindsight, I look back on that time in my life and I go, it was an amazing time in my life, and it was a real catalyst for change. So,
any regrets from back then?
Never.
No.
Never. No regrets. No regrets with anything in life, because that's led me to where I am now.
Yeah.
So there's never any regrets. I've been blessed, but you are a product of your choices. So there's some roads that I could have gone down and been led down, but I chose not to go down that road. Yeah. And I chose to do what I perceived was best, And a lot of people, a lot of mentees say to me, how do I know what my soul mission is? How do I know what my life purpose is? How do I know what I'm here to do? And the really easy answer to that is, I got it from a book by an Australian author. She's a brilliant Australian author. Her name's Rebecca Campbell, and she wrote a book called Light is the New Black.
Light is the New Black.
It's a brilliant book, and she's got several of them. She's really kicking ass at the moment in the world of spirituality. And she turned around and she said, follow your energy. Your energy is trying to tell you where you need to be. So if something really lights you up and makes you really passionate, like we're doing now, we're trying to touch as many people as we can with no agenda or ulterior motive, or it's not about money. This is about trying to touch lives. Yeah. If that's what lights you up, do more of it, because what will happen is you'll meet someone, something will happen, and then that will lead you down another rabbit hole. Yeah. And then something will light you up there. And she said, just keep following your energy. Yeah. And a lot of things I say to my mentees is, what's your energy telling you? Because your energy is telling you what you should do and what you shouldn't. Yeah. But what we do is 5% of our thought is through our conscious mind. So right now, our listeners are listening to this. This is through conscious thought or conscious hearing. You're looking at me now through conscious sight. Subconsciously, 95% of things happen. That's where we talk about our gut instinct, our intuition, our gut feel. And it tells us what we should be doing and what we should, and it's picking up so much information. That's why you go, wow, there's a red flag there and I don't know why. That's because your subconscious has picked all these things up. And so if you can tune in and not allow your conscious mind, which only knows a tiny bit, to sabotage your life and your decisions, if you can tune into your subconscious and you can make your decisions through feel and your energy, you're going to be a lot better off.
I hear it. I've got a client that I work with, and he's big on energy, and that's how he sort of gauges everything. And he said, so I'm working with him now on quite a regular basis, and I said, are you happy with this? Do you want to keep going on? Because I work in the disability sector.
Yep.
And he goes, I was happy when you knocked at the door. I said, what do you mean by that? He goes, I could feel your energy. When you arrived, I knew it was you arriving in the car. He goes, I felt you walking across the front lawn. I felt you knock on the door. He goes, I knew it was right. And we get along like crazy.
Wow. Wow. What a gift he's got to be able to be so in tune with his feelings and the energy. Wow. My wife's like that. My wife is very, very attuned to energy. She gets it, and it's from a few of the retreats that we've done previously. Yeah. And that's been a massive catalyst for change for her. Yeah, but
we'll get there. Yeah.
I don't want to hijack your agenda.
All right. That's question one. I wasn't even going to come in with any questions because I'm like, this is just going to flow. It's just like when we talk in the gym. It's like, we better do some training.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. So briefly, just going back on that. So people have some background about you. So you spent a fair whack of your life in the army.
Yes.
So can you tell us about that? Was that straight out of school? Tell us a bit about that. And what was the most memorable thing about your time in the army as well?
Yep. I left school. I was a bit of a dunce. I left school. I wasn't a dunce, but I was getting bullied a lot, and I didn't think I was overly smart. And I left school in year 10, and I was very independent. And because we come from an upbringing, we didn't have a lot of money. So I decided to get a job. I wanted a job as a carpenter. I wanted to do an apprenticeship as a carpenter because my godfather at the time was the foreman for Lend-Lease, and he was building the Sydney Football Stadium. But I was 15.
Wow.
When I left school, I was 15. And I moved out of home at 15. Jeez. Now, you talk about that in this day and age, and people scratch their heads and they go, kids don't do that now. But I left
35.
home. Yeah, that's right. I was always really independent like that, so I wanted to make it on my own. I started an apprenticeship as a chef, and I hated it. And I remember coming home, and I said to my dad, I'm going to throw this in. And he said, just give it a week. Give it a week and see how you go. So 4 years later, I finished my apprenticeship, and then I think it was a day later, I was on a bus going to Kapuka, which is the 1st Recruit Training Battalion, and that was on the 5th of December 1990. And I love my time in the Army, and I did 12 years. I did 7 years in infantry, and I did 5 years as a physical training instructor.
Infantry is pretty hectic, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's bloody hard work, and it's only cut out for a certain type of person, because it's tough, and you're away a lot too. You know, I was away on either on exercise or on operations, and that means time away from family and whatnot. But that's what you sign on for. You want to get out there. You want to fight. You're very patriotic. You want to serve your country. So, no. The best thing that I got from the military, and there's a plethora of different things, and I could literally sit here for an hour and tell you what I got from the military, as far as amazing leadership, amazing what it takes to become a great team member, to work as a team, to be selfless. But the friendships, a lot of my friendships these days are still based from 25, 30 years ago, from when I joined the Army. Because I always say that through adversity, you either pull together or pull apart. There's no grey. It's either black or white. And a lot of us went through adversity together, and it really pulled us together because we had to rely on each other. And I wrote a blog once, and I said, when we were on operations, it was never the F-88 Steyr rifle with the 1.5 magnified scope that got us out of trouble and made us feel safe. It was always the bloke that was standing back to back to us that made us feel safe. You always knew someone had your back, or someone was going to be there for you. So the Army was such a beautiful platform, and it taught me a lot, and it made me a man. You know, I grew up very, very quickly. I joined the Army at 19, but that's what I wanted. I wanted to be a man. I wanted to grow into being a more independent, you know, self-contained type person, and it did that. But the friendships that I still have to these days are the things that I cherish more than anything else.
Yeah. Would you recommend young people join the Army?
100%. If someone said there's conscription, I would be the guy that would be all for it. Simply because it teaches you so many different things. It teaches you camaraderie. It teaches you. So if you turn up for a minute late, you get charged. And if you do it on a number of times, you'll go to the cells. Yeah, right. And it's
hardcore.
It is. It's hard. It's strict. And I've turned up a minute late before. And because I've turned up a minute late, my whole platoon is doing push-ups for a minute. Yeah. Doing push-ups for a minute.
There's your accountability.
Of course. So you're not letting yourself down, and then you get to stand there for another 5 minutes while they do another, and it just breaks them, and you're like, that's because of me. Yeah. So you learn. You're exactly right. You learn that accountability. You learn what looking out for other people's all about. It's I would highly recommend the Army. It's maybe we should be doing a recruitment podcast. It just I feel like it was a catalyst to really set me up and educate me. And you know, the beauty about age is you get to look back with the benefit of hindsight and go, that I was meant to do that with my life. You know, so and now that I call the Army a foundation, because it was a real foundation in my life. It was a really deep foundation that has served me unconditionally now with regards to making a living. You know, and I love what I do because I get to inspire people and motivate people. But all of that was from the grounding that I got from the Army.
I wanted to join the Army as a child.
And also selected friends and family too. You know, everyone has an impact on your life in some way, shape or form. Yeah.
I was Army fanatic as a child. I had, you know, all the fatigues. My stepfather painted my bike camouflage.
Nice.
And that was what I was doing. And again, like, you know, I used to blame, but he passed away at 13 and my life was just turned upside down. Yeah. I probably still could have gone there, but life has also gone past.
Yeah.
You know, then there's
meant to be.
no doing it now, but yeah, it is what it is. So
So you wouldn't do it now that you're a granddad?
I don't think they'd let me in. I've got a criminal record as well, so that's not going to help. Yeah. All right, so you've answered a couple of questions there. So, okay, and then so you were a soldier basically.
Yes.
And then you did the exercise.
Yep.
So why did you have those people helping you at the gym?
What?
Why do you have the exercise physiologist at the gym?
As I said, when I was younger, I had a different mentality, not as a bit different to what I am now, because when I was younger, I used to treat my body as a bit of an amusement park and just throw myself into everything.
Yeah.
And eventually that catches up with you.
Yeah.
And last February, I had a back operation. I had what's called a microdiscectomy. And so, yeah, I've got people that know a lot more about exercise physiology than I do and physios to try and help with that back injury, and try and get back to the best version of yourself. So
they're good, those. There's three girls that I can't tell apart down there.
Yeah.
The three blonde ones. I walk up, I'm like, hey, do you remember we did this yesterday? They're like, it wasn't me.
That's it. And
but they're really good, aren't they?
They're the best.
Yeah.
They're the best.
Shannon, I see Shannon. He's pretty good.
Yep, same. And I've worked as a physical training instructor in the army, and they are. But they have more than just the exercise knowledge. They've got great
science.
people skills.
Oh, yeah.
They know they've got such a plethora of different clients, and they just know how to look after each one individually, So that's a skill set by itself.
Yeah. I saw you today, you were doing a bit more of your own thing.
Yeah, I try
smashing the triceps.
Yeah, that's it. I try and get there and do a bit of my workout beforehand. I normally do a bit of cardio before I do my exercise physiology session, and then or my physio, and then I do a few weights after. Sometimes things ache and they hurt a little bit more than they normally do, but I've always had this mentality of trying to push through that, and I hate leaning on excuses. So I always say you either find a way and you'll fight for it, or you'll find an excuse. So I'm not a fan. And in my new book I've written, there's only two things really that stop you achieving anything in life, and both of them are connected, and they're joined in a Venn diagram, and they both start with E, and one of them is effort. If you're willing to make the effort, you'll get there, or you'll lean on an excuse.
Yeah,
it's as simple as that.
I like this one. You told me this the other day.
Yeah.
That's
fantastic. So I don't like to lean on those excuses. I like to hold myself accountable. And, I'm only at the gym these days probably 3 days a week. So I've got to make the most of that time.
Oh, speaking of effort, I'm still busted from this. On Saturday, I went to my Muay Thai club, and it's anything goes on Saturdays. So I thought, oh, beauty. Rock up in my Ugg boots, got my gloves. Straight away, my coach goes, where's your shoes? You're going to need your shoes. She goes, I said, I can't run anyway. My ankle's a bit sore. So on the bike. I get in there, look at the board, 50 burpees, 400-metre run. So the run for me is compensated with 4 minutes on an assault bike.
Yep, in Ugg boots.
So 50 burpees on the bike, 100 hand release push-ups on the bike, 100 ball slams on the bike, 200 air squats, that just means no weight, on the bike, 100 ball slams on the bike, 100 hand release push-ups on the bike, 50 burpees. 70 minutes I did that in.
Here's a question for you.
And I'm dead.
Would you have done that if you didn't have someone holding you accountable and metaphorically chest poking you?
No. Well, I quartered that workout today and did it at the gym. So because 100%, and that's what I pay for. I pay to have someone hold me accountable and say you can't go. You can't go till you've done. And I'm like, oh, can I cut this down? No. And they're good coaches.
The forefather of motivation is a guy called Jim Rohn, and he once said that he's the best. Yeah. And he said, you are who you surround yourself with. The 5 people you surround yourself with the most is a person you'll become. So choose carefully. Yeah. And, I've always been in amazement when people leave the army. Normally, not all, but normally their fitness starts to regress. So I said to my commanding officer once, I said, why is that? Why do people leave the army and they go, not backwards in life, but they don't maintain the standard that they're held to in the army? And he said, simply because they move into civilian life and they don't have that accountability. Whereas if I'm in the army and I finish work, one of the boys might go, do you want to come for a 5K run, or do you want to come and do some push-ups? And I'm like, oh, not really. And all of a sudden the peer group turn around and go, come on, stop being lazy. And you don't have a choice. So your peer group lifts you up. So by you going to the gym and knowing that you wouldn't have done that previously, that's awesome. That's great, because that peer group is inspiring you to be a better version of yourself. Yeah. So when you walk in there, although you're sore and you're looking at it from a negative point of view, you should go in there and go, thanks. Yeah. I needed that.
No, it is. That's why I love being around a club. And I spent, I think it's about 20 months now away from there. And I dropped my son off there to train, and just the smell, hearing the pads get hit. I'm like, I've got to get back. I've got to get back. And then, he's speaking with you, speaking with Jeff, another bloke who's sort of been mentoring me. I'm like, I had a goal to get back by December this year. And I'm like, and then my coach, my Muay Thai coach goes, why wait? Why wait till then? Come in on Tuesday.
But the progress...
and there we are, we're back.
The progress since I've met you and the results that you've told me have been amazing. Yeah. So good for you, mate. Really happy for you.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm feeling
and you've got
good.
Big momentum.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. And ironically, my son and I, we do a word of the day in the car on the way to school, and momentum's one of them.
Oh, really?
And so I'll just like, what's momentum mean? And he'll go, speed, movement, movement. Like that'll do. Yeah, that'll do.
He's getting there. And we, my wife and I have just started a thing, and on a weekend, our place becomes a revolving door. We're very fortunate to have friends and family that come up and visit on the Sunshine Coast because it's such a beautiful spot. It is. And one of our friends came up, and he says he does something with his kids, and he goes, every night at dinner before we start eating, we turn around and we go, what's the best thing that happened to you today? Yeah. And what's the worst thing that happened to you today? And a lot of the time, we go around the table, and a lot of the time I can't think of a worse thing that's happened to me. It's and that's when you've had a good day. But it's a really good practice that we've gotten into that we share with people that come up and visit us, and they enjoy it as well.
Yeah, I do it with my son. What's three things? And he doesn't quite get it. What's three things you're grateful for today? And I think the word grateful throws him up. I'm like, what were three good things today? Yeah. And he can work that out.
Yeah, that's great.
And he's like, the food? I'm like, yeah.
Good.
Yeah, that's fine.
There's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah, there's no, you can't get this wrong.
Yeah.
He's like, the food. He's like, when we went through this cold snap, he's like, the heater. And I'm like, yeah, that's good, man. He's getting it. Yeah. So hopefully, I didn't have this as a child. I wish... And I know what you're saying, you found it now, but I feel like, fuck, why didn't I find all this earlier?
You weren't ready, mate.
Why couldn't I? Yeah, and I wasn't.
You weren't ready.
I wasn't.
You weren't ready. And we've had this conversation just to give your listeners a bit of an update. Jay comes in and he says, I'm 45 and I wish I knew this shit back then. Things would have been different. And I'm like, you weren't supposed to, you wouldn't have absorbed it, no. But now you're 45, you've got another 40 or 50 years on this planet to make the most of it with the newfound knowledge and the newfound zest and everything that you have in your life. So what an amazing gift you've been given. Yeah. And the thing I said to you the other day was most people don't actually even get there at all. Yeah. So 45, you've waited a little while, much the same as me. Yeah. However, I'm so optimistic about life. I'm so grateful that I get to live my life now and I get how it all works.
And we were talking about this, I think in the same conversation, about the ability to detect negativity now. Yeah. And like see it and cross the street and just see someone's bubble and be like, fuck, I'm not going to be, don't taint me with that shit. Yep. And I can just like, even in the gym, and it's not one of those gyms, but if there's some ego there, I'll just literally sidestep. Yeah. See, I don't need that.
Don't need that pretentiousness. No,
mate,
that's right.
I was in a pub the other day and I saw a few I was not drinking, listeners. I'm doing my dry July. I was with a client and I saw some people drinking, getting quite rowdy. And me and my client were talking about people skills and how some people would never be able to go and infiltrate that table. I said I could quite easily go and be in that group, walk in there and infiltrate. I said, but I have absolutely no desire because listen to what they're talking about. Yeah. It was just negative, just like rolling ciggies and smoking. I'm just like, for me, it was just like this big Donnie Darko visible bubble of negativity. I'm just like,
It's not your tribe.
yeah,
It's not your tribe.
yeah.
And I said to you the other day, if someone came up and constantly asked you for $20, $20, there'd come a stage when you go, I'm not doing it anymore. I'm not giving
I've
it to you
got one of
anymore.
them. It's called a wife.
But we don't do it with negative people. We just keep going and giving and giving and giving. And although they're actually depleting our energy stores through their negativity, and as I mentioned before, you can't lead a positive life if you surround yourself with negative people.
Yeah.
So they're draining you. You know. And there's a guy called Dan Dopamine, and he's a gun, and he was a Buddhist monk for like 10 years, and he's now in the corporate world, and he's trying to teach people the Buddhist ways and some of the ideologies. And he said if he's walking down the street and he knows that there's an extremely negative person walking towards him, he'll cross the street. And someone said to him, you can't do that. You're a Buddhist monk. You're supposed to love everyone. And he goes, yeah, but why do I want to get my energy drained?
Yeah. I think I gave you the analogy, the bucket fillers.
Yes.
So you're a bucket filler or you're a bucket taker. And it's okay to take from someone's bucket. Like when I see you, I take out of your bucket, but I'll go and give to someone else. And I know you got a big bucket.
We're here to plant a seed for a tree that will create shade that we'll never be able to sit under.
Yeah,
so
that's a good one.
it's all about service. You know, we're here to inspire and motivate and serve other people, but we don't get that. We don't live in that kind of world, especially in Western culture. So we've got to get back to that mentality, and hopefully with people like yourself that can get out there and take a bit of inspiration and then go and give it to someone else, that becomes contagious. They'll give it to someone else. So, you know, Maya Angelou once said, people will never remember what you said. They won't remember how you made them feel. They won't remember what you said. They won't remember something else, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. So it's important that you try and lift people up. You know, there's enough negativity in the world.
100%. Do you feel like and we'll go into how you became to be into your role, but I've noticed lately, the more positive I am, the more people pick up on it. There's the girl at the front desk at the gym. She's like, Jay, you must touch everyone's life that you come into. You're such a lovely person. I was at uni the other day buying a coffee. The girl was like, oh my God, you got this aura about you. Do you think that when you drop all that bullshit, you drop all that ego and negativity, it's literally that visible for some people? Because I'm just, everywhere I go now, all I hear is positive, positive, positive. There's that negative stuff is, I don't want to jinx myself or touch wood, but it just seems to be so far behind me.
The thing that I was watching a bit of Joe Dispenza. He's got a really good show on Netflix, on Gaia, called Rewired. And he was saying we all know that every single thing known to man is made of atoms. And he said, but they've peeled an atom back and they've found that 99.7% of that atom is actually empty space. There's nothing there. And 0.3 of 1% of that atom is actually light. And they've gone and expanded in on that, and it's a vibrational frequency that's creating that light. So everything is about vibrational frequency, whether you realize it or not. And so the energy that you're giving off is, guess what you're attracting? What you send out. So life is not happening to you, life is responding to you. So it's really, really important that whatever you send out is exactly, that's what I was talking about, that perpetual loop of negativity. So as soon as you send that out, guess what?
Comes back.
Of course it does. And people go, I'm just stuck in this rut. Okay, well, you need to. And James Clear wrote a really good book called Atomic Habits. And he says all habitual behavior, as human beings, we're habitual creatures. As human beings, we're drawn into habitual behavior. You got up this morning, you put your feet on the floor, you walk to the bathroom. We have a habit of doing the same things over and over and over again. So if you find yourself in a hole, you got to stop digging. If your life is full of negativity and things aren't working out, you need to make a change. But it goes back to what I said before. People have a fear of failure, or I might be perceived as a failure, or that I failed, or I don't like change because that's the unknown. We live in this state of fear, all of us, and fear is like a recipe. So all of your listeners have served up a cake before or cooked a home-cooked meal. that has ingredients and a recipe. Fear is exactly the same. Fear is one part memory, one part imagination. So you think about it. Anytime that you go into a state of fear, your imagination has run off, or you've got a memory of how bad it was for you or someone else that you know about.
This happened to me the other day, and I was thinking about this conversation.
It's called catastrophizing,
Yes.
and we start to blow it out, but none of it's real. If you were to go to a psychologist and say, hey, I've got a fear of this, they would say to you, they probably wouldn't, but the clinical definition is it's a clinical definition of insanity because you're worrying about something that doesn't exist. The only thing, the only place it exists is in your own head. So how do we overcome our fears? Come back to the now. Just, it's really hard to do because there's so many distractions, especially with phones and social media in this day and age. But if you can practice that, and the greatest prophets of all time have said it for thousands of years, if you can come back to the now, and a lot of the time we can't. And so with the football teams that I have helped and coached before, I came up with an acronym, and the acronym was a double entendre, which was WIN. And the WIN stands for what's important now. So let's say that someone scored a try and then they scored another try. The team stands behind the post, and individually they start to catastrophize and they go, wow, if they score another try, we could lose this game. If we lose this game, I could lose my spot in the team. If we lose a spot in the team, I might get kicked out of the club. If I do that, I might not have a house. Of course,
no house,
that's catastrophizing. That's fear-based.
Yeah.
And so to stop that, I say to them, what's important now? Well, we need to go to the bounce up if you're playing AFL. We need to go to have the kickoff. Okay, don't go any further than that. And when there's another break in play, do that. And we can do that in life. We can incorporate that. We can turn around as a tool for our toolbox and go, okay, I've caught my breath. I'm sitting in the car. What's important now? I need to go to Jay's podcast. Don't go any further than that. And all of a sudden you start to create habitual behavior for yourself, and everything starts to change, and you're in the now, and you're not being influenced by that fear or that memory, which is driven by imagination or memory.
Yeah, we did say we're going to unpack fear, so I guess it stops a lot of things. I do that. There's a situation, I don't want to say too much in case the person listens, but I was in a situation the other day, and I needed guidance, and I asked someone, I said, I think I told you, I said, I don't want to attend something.
Yes.
You know, I didn't want to attend something because there was going to be, in my mind, there was going to be an altercation and there was going to be drama. And I said, I'm still not ready. I think I might throw hands.
Yes.
Right? And you said to me, how do you know it's going to happen? You know, so that was me fear because of the memory, because when it's happened before, what do? Boos.
Yeah. And the other thing I said to you, because I remember the conversation, was anything that anyone ever says to you is always a direct reflection of what's going on in their life.
Yeah.
So don't take anything personally, because it's always a direct reflection of what's going on in their life. It has nothing to do with you. People vent and it comes out and they attack. So the analogy I use to paint a picture is, just think of the time, go back in your mind of a time when you're extremely happy, euphorically happy. What did you want for everyone around you? You wanted to share it with them. You wanted them to be happy. I want you guys in on this. So it works exactly the same thing with negativity. So my mum used to say to me, some people should be pitied, not punished.
Yeah. This is good, Mum. This is good.
Yeah. And I like you, I used to react and jump straight in and try and jump down someone's throat. And that was subconscious programming, habitual behavior. And now I'm better educated, I'm smarter, I'm more patient than that. And so now I look at them, if they attack me, and I go, wow, what makes you hurt so much that you want that to be true? Yeah. And I feel for them. I'm like, wow, I really pity you, because if you're that negative towards me, there's some issues that you've got.
Yeah.
And I can walk away. I'm going to send you love. I'm going to wish you well. But you've got to continue on with your life, I feel for you.
Yeah.
So once again, it's a mentality shift, but I used to be exactly the same.
It's really powerful that, I guess not even pity, just that that wishing well. Yeah, look, there's not much I can do for you here, but I wish you well and move on.
Yeah.
So, I'll tell you off air what ended up happening.
Yes, please. That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, so now we'll jump into what you're doing Right,
Yes.
so you're an author. You've authored a couple books, and you're a motivational speaker. But just quickly, when did you discover that you did have the skill set to be a mentor? Like how young were you? And
I think when I was in the army, as I said, I was very fortunate to be surrounded by some great leaders and really selfless, altruistic type mentalities. So I love to people watch, and I used to watch how these people, looked after their soldiers and their troops.
what makes a great leader then?
Well, I always say, a common set of values and beliefs, but a great leader, I believe, well, the name of my book is called Selfless Leadership, How to Create a High-Performing Culture by Putting Others First. So
The new book?
yeah, it's not released yet, but I think everything revolves around altruism. So altruism is basically selflessness. So when other people I always say, if you work in a team, and I've said this to plenty of professional sporting teams, if you work in a team, you have made a conscious choice to come into this team and put other people before yourself. You're putting the man to the left of you and the man to the right of you before yourself. So a good leader will sacrifice their own self-interest. So are you willing to do that? And if you're not, we send you love, we wish you well, but you don't belong here. You belong in an individual sport, maybe something like tennis or swimming or maybe golf. But you don't belong in a team environment simply because a team means that you're willing to put other people first. And in the army, I was very fortunate to work with not just leaders, but colleagues that would put me first. And that inspires you to do the same thing. So that selflessness defines a good leader for me. Someone that's without want of or reward. There's no ulterior motive, no agenda. They're doing it because they want what's best for you. There's no money or carrot at the end of a stick in order for them to be motivated by. It's because I know that you're going to be a better version of yourself if I help you. So, and that becomes contagious. Once you are in that presence of those people, it becomes contagious and you want to become that person because you feel inspired. So the name of my business for 25 years has been called Inspire. So I left the army. I went and worked on cruise ships for a little while, which is where I met my wife. And I started to give, in the army as a physical training instructor, you're an educator, motivator, and your job is to inspire the troops to become the best version of themselves. So I think it all started there, to be honest, in the last probably half decade of my military career. It was probably in my late 20s. I really started to go, I enjoy this. I enjoy seeing people become the best version of themselves. And they say they can't do this, but give them 3 months work in your time and give them the tools for their toolbox to become that person. And when they do become that person, they go, wow. And then they give it to someone else.
Yeah.
And I see that compounding effect. And I'm just like, wow. That just really inspires me. And we talked earlier on about soul mission and life purpose and things like that. That's what I believe I'm here to do. I believe I'm here to inspire, motivate and educate people, But as you mentioned, I couldn't do that when I left school because I didn't have an education behind me. But Jim Rohn once said, education will make you a living, but self-education will make you a fortune. Yeah. And I've been very, very fortunate in my life with business dealings and things like that and the people that I surround myself with. But I don't know anyone that works harder on their self-education than me. And I can say that for the last 20 years. Yeah. I work really, really hard. I watch documentary after documentary. The thirst I have for learning is unbelievable.
And your memory, fuck.
Well,
I would like for you to share what you shared with me the other day about attaching emotions to memory.
Sure. Yep.
So I went home. So I'm studying biology at the moment.
Yes.
And I've got to learn so many new words and so much new shit. But you had just briefly. Can you do the helium, the balloon thing for?
Oh yeah,
listeners?
I'll go back one step. So. My wife, I put on an audiobook in the car and my wife tips her nose up, rolls her eyes and she goes, oh, she's not an audiobook person, but she will read. She's an avid reader and she's a very strong reader. She loves to read her Kindle or a book and she'll read a lot, but she hates audiobooks. When I was at school, the reason why I wasn't very good at school is because I didn't like to read. I get distracted very, very easily and I'll read a page and I'll go, I read that, but I don't know what it's about. Or I'll fall asleep and I'll wake up and I'll go, what was that about again? And I'll read the same page over and over and over until I get it. So I'm very distracted with different thoughts and when I read. But when I listen to an audiobook, I create a picture. So we have two hemispheres on our brain, a left brain, which is analytical, 2 + 2 is 4. That calculation then was your analytical brain, the left side of your brain working harder. And the right side is our creative side, which thinks in pictures. Think of a pink elephant. Everyone just thought of a pink elephant. That's your right brain side of your brain being activated. So for me, when I listen to an audiobook and they're speaking and they're telling a story, I picture that in my own sense. And then that picture that I create creates a feeling. That feeling then creates an emotion, and that emotion creates a memory. So like yourself, people say to me, wow, you've got unbelievable retention. Well, if you knew me when I was 15 and I was at school, you would say completely the opposite thing. And I do think I have great retention, but I work at it too. Yeah. I've got memory improvement books because when you're on stage and you're speaking for an hour, 2 hours straight, there's a lot of content you have to deliver. So I don't want to lose my shit on stage and forget where I was. And that happens every now and then. Sometimes
I'll say cards.
Nothing. Just the only thing I have pictures as slides that resonate with what I'm saying.
Yeah, which you've attached something to.
Correct. So that's where I get my memory from with regards to, audiobooks are for me. Audiobooks, I get to create that picture, and then videos as well, because I can sit there and I can watch the dialogue unfold and I create that feeling, create that emotion. That emotion creates a memory.
Yeah. I've just started doing this. I heard it on a Jim Quick podcast.
Oh, he's brilliant, isn't he?
So he did a thing where he's like, touch your forehead, and then you think about the giant monkey, and then touch your shoulders, and then he asks you to go back. So he goes, what is the shoulders? And you're like, oh, that was the manic monkey, or the wailing willow, whatever, So, and I'm like, okay, that kind of works for me. So then, and it has worked. I was in a biology class the other day, and I'm like, this is just coming at me, and my mind is like a jug, and once it's full, I can feel it spilling over the edge. So I'm like, I've got to attach some things to it.
Correct.
So and they're like, can you please not have your phones? So he's telling us things, and I've got like, okay, so we're talking about cells, and I've like got a picture of my granddaughter, right? Printing that moment. What was I doing with my granddaughter that day? Where was I? Bang, bang, bang. So bang, that's there. So I'm using images. But you had another really good one with the story.
Yes. So I was down at the beach the other day, and a friend of mine, Joe, who's an extremely intelligent guy, I was telling him a story about a book that I read, and the book is called Made to Stick. And the start of the book is, I'm in a bar, I'm in Chicago, and I'm having a scotch, just sitting at the bar by myself. I look across the bar and I see this beautiful woman, and we make eye contact. She picks up a glass and she starts to walk over, and we start chatting. We get on really, really well. She offers to buy me a drink, and I'm like, wow, how good's this? So I have a drink. Next thing, I wake up, I'm in a bathtub full of ice. Yeah. And there's a fishing line in front of me with a Post-it note on it and says called 911. So I pick up the phone, which is right next to me. Someone's placed it there. And I call 911. And by this stage, I'm starting to get cold. And I call 911 and I go, hey, I don't know what's going on here. I've just been told to call you. I'm sitting in a bathtub full of ice. And she goes, it's okay, sir. We understand exactly what's going on. Police and an ambulance has been dispatched. There are organ thieves in the country at the moment, and someone has stolen your kidneys. Stay perfectly safe. Stay where you are. There's help on its way. Now, the story starts to dissipate from there, and it says, you may not have remembered that it was in Chicago, but you may not remember that he was drinking scotch, but you'll remember the crux of that story because certain stories are made to stick. So I was telling my friend Joe this the other day down on the beach, and he goes, I learnt the elements table. And he goes, let me take you through it really quickly. He said, I've got a balloon here, and the balloon's going up in the air. I'm holding it on a piece of string because the balloon is filled with what, Rich? And I said, helium. And he goes, yeah, that's right. And he goes, but that helium balloon goes up and it drops down into the ocean, which is full of H2O, which is water. And I'm like, wow. And he goes, you just learnt the first two of the three elements of the elements table. And I'm like, and he goes, so as soon as you paint a picture and that picture sticks, he said, what a great way to improve your memory.
Yeah, that's what my lecturer said. He goes, draw. He
Yep.
goes, as you're going through it, draw. He goes, doesn't have to be what I draw. He goes, but just draw it. So if
That's
you're
relevant for you.
drawing a cell,
Yes.
if you're
That's right, brain
drawing-
orientated.
Yeah, so you can keep it in there. And again, I said to you with the storybook about the squalene of the nose.
Yes,
So reading a story, a Jack Reacher novel, and they found squalene at a crime scene, which only comes from sharks or from the end of our nose, and it's to lubricate watches. So,
Wow.
so he did this bloke, and like that is useless pub ammo, you know. But because I was so engaged in the book, I
Yep.
could tell you where I was reading it.
There you go.
What
It made stick. So
squalene.
for my keynotes, I use a method called the Palace method. And I encourage any of your listeners to look it up if they want to improve their memory, because it's, in my opinion, it's the best memory improvement program there is. It's called the Palace method. And it basically says that in your house, you've like, for me, for my keynote, I've got 2 bedside drawers. I've got my bed, I've got a ceiling fan, I've got a wardrobe. So each one of them indicates a sentence or a particular topic that I want to speak about. So, and the more crazier I can make that picture, the better. So I start one of my keynotes by saying, we create. And so I've envisaged this woman laying on my bed, sitting on her bedside table, on the bedside table, giving birth.
Right.
She's creating.
Right.
And so anytime that I think of that, I think of my bedside table, and then I move into the next part, which is my bed. And I draw an association with that, but I create a visual of something like a German shepherd sitting on the bed with a glass of water. But that will be the trigger for my brain to be able to go, that's it. And so I just go around the bedroom. So I go chest of drawers, bed, chest of drawers, fan. And so when I'm on stage and I'm walking, I'm just going around, and then I go into the bathroom and I see the towel rack, and then I see the set of scales, and then I see the shower, and then I go out onto the deck. And so that's how I use my memory with regards to stuff on stage. Every single keynote presentation I have is attached to an object in my house, because those objects don't normally change. They stay there, they stay put, you know. So that's what the Palace method is. If there's something that stays put, could be the lamppost in your street. If there's 20 lampposts in your street, each lamppost can come up with a different story. You put all those stories together, all of a sudden you've got a 40-minute conversation.
And do you physically put like a post-it note or something like that, or it's just in your head? So you walk past the fridge, and the fridge means content.
I have an obsessive mentality. So if I want to learn a keynote, I will record my own voice, and every single word, the tones, the pitches, the body language, the tonality, the pregnant pauses, everything gets put into this. I record it on my phone, and then I walk around the house like a lunatic, just reciting these words and listening to it. Then I'll go to bed, I'll put my headphones in, and I'll recite it, because that's going into my subliminal subconscious.
Yeah.
That's helping me remember. Then I'll get up in the morning, and I'll get up 15 minutes early just to listen to that. And then once I've got that first 5 minutes or 10 minutes, I'll go into the next part. Normally it's content that I know, but if there's specific words that I really want to reiterate that I think will affect my audience, I'll really try and work on massaging those words in there so it has the biggest possible impact.
Crazy.
Yeah.
You could be an actor. I've always wondered how they remember their
I've
lines.
got a very good head for radio.
I'm just thinking about that. I got those words wrong. Eukaryotes and prokaryotes it is.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Oh, well, I can be a fool on my podcast. Okay, so you got a couple books out. Any formal training for writing? And
No.
speaking, for that matter?
No, my first book that you have in front of you there, Be You, Be Great, basically someone asked me the other day, what inspired you to write that? And if I'm being perfectly honest, there was a lot of shit in my head that needed to come out, because I spruik a lot of stuff to inspire people and motivate them on their journey. And I thought, you know what? This needs to come into a book, and I need to be able to print this book and be able to give it to people so that they can underline it, so they can highlight it, so they can dog ear a page, so they can write in the margin, so they can take it as quick or as slow as they like. And I got of course I'm an audio guy. I got a professional voiceover artist to do it, a 2-time Emmy Award winner actually. Yeah. And he...
You know I'm available for the next one.
100%. 100%. I got you on speed dial. I think you're number 2 in my favourites. Yeah, he wrote it, and he read it basically verbatim, and it's 3 hours and 18 minutes. So it's not a long read, but sometimes I didn't realise this when I wrote the book, because I was just trying to get all the shit from my head out on paper. But a book is supposed to be 50% why, why are we doing this? And this is 50% how. Here's a solution. But that's about 80% how. It's like, so there's a lot of small stories, and they're all stories that have taught me how to become a better version of myself that I thought might be able to influence other people as well.
But you're not preachy in it. It's not like do as I say, not as I do. It's hand holding.
Yeah,
I feel.
Yeah, thank you. I don't think people. I know I don't. No one likes to be talked to.
Yeah.
And we don't like to be saying, this is how you do it. Because everyone's different. Everyone's going to have a different experience. One of my best mates, he lives in Toowoomba, and I was spruiking once how beautiful the Sunshine Coast was, and he goes, "It's beautiful, mate, but it's beautiful for you."
Yeah.
And I felt my back get up a little bit, but he was exactly right.
Yeah.
He was right. It's beautiful for me because that's my take on it, So everyone's different. So you can't turn around and go, this worked for me, so it'll work for you. Here's a suggestion. So, and I call them breadcrumbs. So you turn around and you go, well, here's a breadcrumb. In order for you to become a better version of yourself, that's what you want. Here's a breadcrumb. And if they come back to you and they go, oh, have you got any more? Yeah, here's another breadcrumb. And all of a sudden you get to work with this person and help them. But the biggest mistake I've made over the last 2 decades is there's a Rumi quote, and it says, lighthouses don't run around the island trying to save boats.
Love this one.
They just stand there shining.
Yeah, I love
And the
this.
problem with me is because I'm so passionate about what I do and I believe so strongly in it, trying to inspire and motivate people, for the longest time, I've tried to get people and go, hey, I've got an amazing life. I want you to have it too. But most people are happy in their pity party. They don't want to change, or they have a fear of change, which is the fear of the unknown. Better the devil I know, I'll stay here.
Yep.
So, it's a tough one. But what I do now is I live my best possible life. I try and be that lighthouse that just shines. And what I've noticed, it's like moths to a light. People come up and go, why are you so happy? You're happy. What are you doing? I'm glad you asked.
Yeah.
Here's a breadcrumb.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, my audience has grown quite substantially simply because people are looking at me going, how are you doing that? And I'm like, well, I did it like this. And I'm more than happy to share all my knowledge and my information and things I've learned. That's what I'm here to do.
Yeah.
But I no longer try and save people anymore. It decreases your energy. It's too taxing emotionally and mentally.
Well, that's why you're so infectious. Like the first time we met, right, and we'll go into that. So, full disclosure, I met Ritchie in a change room at a gym.
My wife says to me, you got to stop meeting these guys in steam rooms. Do you know how that sounds? And I'm like, yeah, I can hear myself saying it.
I'm thinking of I'm going to talk to him. I'd love to do like a podcast in the sauna.
Room. Wow.
And because people have only got 20 to maybe 30 minutes in them, and how many good conversations happen in there, man?
So many. In the last 3 years, I've met some absolutely amazing people.
Yeah. So it's up there, and that's my idea, non-disclosure agreement right here. So but that's what it was. I met you. We had a quick chat about the ayahuasca, which we'll go into, and you went A, B, C. See you later. Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Here's my phone number. Give us a buzz, and I'm like, fuck.
You sat on that for a while too.
Yeah, I did. Well, I went and did the research you told me. I went and had a look, and
breadcrumbs.
I saw a bit of negative, saw a bit of positive. I thought, right, I'll send you that message because there's a couple of people at the gym doing it, and I said, let's go, and then it turns out the dates didn't quite work out.
Yep.
And and that's what was infectious. You didn't push. I could see you were passionate.
I used to.
But
I used to, if I believe in anything and I'm passionate, and I consider myself an extremely passionate person, which has its pros and cons. But if I'm passionate about something, I'll stand on top of the rooftop and go, this is amazing. You should try this. I want everyone to experience this. But you've got to be careful when you do that.
I'm very similar.
Yeah.
What star sign are you?
Pisces. 1st of March.
Pisces. Yeah. We're close. I'm a Capricorn.
Okay.
And I get in trouble with that with my missus and my daughter. Like, they're like, I don't want to fucking know.
Yeah.
Like, keep it to yourself. And we had that discussion, you know. But I have this beautiful platform here which reaches thousands of people.
You've got a gift. You're sharing your gift.
And if they don't want to know, you can fucking turn the station. All right, so let's go into this, man, because this is going to be a good one. And I know I want to do it. And I know a few of my listeners that are interested in it because it has. I am friends with some of the people that listen. I do not know how to spell it, and my word is telling me that it's spelt wrong. But let's get into the ayahuasca.
Right.
I know a few, like I said, a few more listeners are keen. Can you tell us how you came across it and your experience with taking it?
Wow, this is a story.
Should we have a break?
No, let's go down the rabbit hole. Let's rip in. The catalyst was my brother.
Right.
My brother is 8 years older than me, an amazing human being, best man at my wedding, but a straighty 180, and me too.
Yeah,
I've never had a puff of a cigarette in my life. Don't really drink very much, and because my dad and my two brothers, I'm the youngest of four, and my sister used to say to me, if you ever touch drugs, we'll literally kill you. And I believe that to be true. So, and that's not an exaggeration. I literally thought I'm better off not touching drugs or alcohol or anything because I don't want to get smashed by my dad or my brother. So
my mum said the same thing while smoking.
Oh,
and drinking.
there you go. Do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
And that was just that came from a place of love for them, just trying to do the best for me, So anyway, about 3 years ago, my brother sent me this video. And as I said, I come from a boxing background. And my brother sent me this video, and it was of Mike Tyson. And he was on Joe Rogan. It was a 7-minute clip. It had been cut. And Joe Rogan turns around to Mike Tyson and goes, "Hey, Mike, you're 53 years of age now." He said, "You still box? Do you still go to the gym? You still look like you're in good shape." And Mike Tyson's gone, "No. No, I don't do any of that anymore." He said, "No, I've changed. My family is my priority now." And, everything was...
Yeah, I've watched that episode.
Yeah. And I'm like, wow, he's the guy with the biggest ego literally on the planet. He has to have had that, being the youngest heavyweight champion in the world. So what was the catalyst for change? And as I thought that, Joe Rogan said, "So there must have been a catalyst for change. What was it, Mike?" And he goes, "Well," and I might get these mixed up, but he said, "I went into the Arizona desert and they gave me a Coloradan cane toad, and they squeezed the venom or the pus out of the top of the cane toad. They dried it on glass in the sun. Then we put it in a pipe and we smoked it."
Yeah.
And you could see Joe Rogan at this stage. You could see him shake his head, rolling his eyes as if to go, "Yep, I know exactly what's going on here." But he led Mike Tyson on. He goes, "So what did you feel, Mike?" And Mike said, "Well, I went back in a slingshot and I just rocketed up into a different plane, into a different space, into a different dimension." And he said, "I don't know how long I was out for." He said, "But I experienced everything. I experienced death and da-da-da." And he goes, "I can't remember," Mike Tyson, a little bit punch drunk, going, "I can't remember what it was called." And Joe Rogan goes, "It was called 5-MeO-DMT. And Mike Tyson's eyes lit up like dish plates and he went, That's it, that was it." And Joe Rogan goes, "Would you do it again?" He goes, "Oh, in a heartbeat." He said, "But I've got a lot to process." He said, "No, not straight away." He said, "What did it do for you, Mike?" And he goes, "I came back after 10 minutes apparently." And he said, "I had no ego. My ego was dissolved." And he said, "And I changed." And I'm like, wow, that was a real defining moment for me in my life. And I remember I was 48 years of age and I went, wow, here's a guy with the biggest ego on the planet and he, in 10 minutes it can shift. What is this stuff? Yeah. So I went down the rabbit hole and I started to find out what DMT was. And then I started to educate myself like we do and went down this rabbit hole of, I couldn't even say it at the time. I couldn't say ayahuasca. I didn't know how to spell it. But DMT is the active ingredient in ayahuasca. So I started to look up all these different websites that do it. And it's in South America, in Brazil, in Costa Rica, in Peru. And I started to read all the blogs and all the comments, and literally 99.9% of them said, it changed my life. There was a real consistent theme there. It changed my life. Yeah. And I'm like, wow, this is really powerful. It happened to Mike Tyson and all these people. I mean, I read thousands of reviews. Yeah. Then I read this one blog from someone that was extremely well written, extremely well educated, and he finished his blog off by saying, if you are contemplating this, but you're thinking twice about it and it's a money thing, sell everything that you have and go and do it because nothing will change your life more. So I'm like, I'm in. Turned around to my wife and I said, I need to put $5,000 or $10,000 aside. I'm going to Peru. She goes,
oh, is that where you did it?
No.
No. I'm going to Peru next year.
Are you? Yeah. Well, I'd love to go to Peru and do it. Yeah. Anyway, so we're moving And so I met a group of people. They said, hey, there's no need to go to Peru, you know. So I did it with them, and it was the biggest catalyst for change in my life. Nothing, and intention is probably one of the biggest parts of ayahuasca. You have to go in there with an intention of what you want to get out of the medicine. And the thing that blows my mind, I was talking to a friend about this on the weekend, is you can be in Peru, Brazil, Australia, anywhere in the world, but everyone sees the same vision. Everyone sees that same weathered old Indian woman called Mother Ayahuasca or Grandma. There's different labels for her, but everyone sees her. You know, how can that be?
Yeah.
You know, and I remember Joe Rogan saying, you know, I don't know if I've experienced this in my mind or if it's an outer entity of consciousness that I'm experiencing, but how can everyone experience the exact same level of consciousness? And how can everyone go to a different plane? How can everyone see the same beings in a different dimension? And you try and explain this to a normal person that hasn't done it, and you sound like a lunatic because you're like, I've gone to a different plane, I've gone to a different dimension, I've gone to a different reality. And they're like, they can't experience that. But when you talk to someone who's done a psychedelic or ayahuasca, they go, I get you.
Yeah.
I'm on the same page.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about. But as far as a catalyst for change for me, my intention was to dissolve my ego, same as Mike Tyson, and not allow fear to control my emotions. Now I've jumped out of planes, jumped out of helicopters, abseiled off 1,000 feet cliffs. I'm not afraid really of snakes or spiders. That doesn't worry me. But I feel that fear controls a lot of our decisions in everyday life. So how do I stop fear from controlling the decisions that I make in life, where I just go, let's rip in?
Yeah.
And, you know, and the biggest fear that we have is death. So once you have a feeling of I'm okay to die, and you understand what death is, which ayahuasca does teach you, you go, well, I'm diminishing my fear. You know, and in my last ayahuasca retreat, which was my fourth one, I died. I was 94 years of age, and I've read Christopher Batch's book, which is called LSD, Mind of the Universe. This guy's a university professor in the US, and he did 73 LSD trips over a period of 20 years, and he unpacks all of those trips in
Crazy.
different periods. Yeah, and extremely well educated. Not a single person except for his wife knew he was doing it. Wow. And some of the things that he's seen, and he did what's called heroic doses. Some of the things that he's seen and experienced, it would blow your mind. But he went there, you know, and he wanted to become the best version of himself, and he didn't do it to be to play around and mess with drugs and see. He did it because he wanted to unpack his psyche and become the best version of himself. And someone said to me just on Saturday, why have you done ayahuasca? Why have you done psychedelics before? And I'm like, the reason is because every single day I want to become a better version of myself, and I believe that this is a tool to help me get there. But ayahuasca has made me a better person. It's helped dissolve my ego. That's a daily ritual. There's no silver bullet. It's just made me become more kind. It's made me understand what conditioning is and how we become conditioned and programmed. And it really starts to unpack all that stuff. And so much so, as I said, I'm a very passionate person. I get on the rooftop and I'll yell it from the top if I believe in it strongly. So I've had my wife do it. She's done a few retreats with me now because I don't want to take a single step of this journey unless she's on it, you know, because you'll end up drifting apart eventually, you know. So, and I said to her on the weekend, I've done ayahuasca and I've had friends that have experienced it, but I've never seen anyone experience it and change more than you. She, when we lived in Brisbane, she would never walk outside without shoes on. She didn't understand what grounding or earthing was, and I'd tell her that I'm going down to Bunnings and in 10 years we had beautiful gardens. She never once came out, you know, but now she wants to go camping and she wants to walk bare feet, and she's just at one with nature because one of her experiences was the trees talking to her and communicating with her, and you get an understanding that every single thing is a living thing. And so you get to look at animals differently. I look at my dog now differently, and I realise my dog is the epitome of unconditional love. And how can I become like my dog, you know? And then I look at a bird come in, and, you know, we feed the birds out on the back deck, and it just changes your mentality with regards to nature, and you just become, or you feel you become more whole. And this is not an isolated incident because, as I said, my wife has experienced it and monumentally grown. But also some really close friends of mine have done it too, and they've had great experiences as well. Sometimes the problem can lie in the fact that you'll do a retreat and you'll go back to normal life, and that silver bullet that it's created and that change, you get drawn back into your normal life and you get back into your old habitual behaviour and the things that you used to do.
So there's still work to do after the session.
The work starts after the session. The visual, so the processing. I wrote down my 4 ayahuasca retreats, and I think I came up with 11,000 words just from the journaling that I did. And there's so much to unpack. And my wife has written more than me.
Wow.
We had to buy new journals the other day because we've written so much with regards to what we've seen and what it meant. And it's like a giant jigsaw puzzle in front of you, and you've got 1,000 pieces and you're trying to find the pieces that fit and connect the dots. That's what it is. And then all of a sudden you'll go, that's what that was about in January last year when we did it, or whatnot. You know, it's just extremely powerful. But as I said, a massive catalyst for change for me, and I'm a massive advocate, although I know a lot of people don't understand it. But if you date back thousands of years and go back into Brazil and the history of it, there are over 150,000 species of plants in the Amazon. That's at the last count. And they found these 2 plants that work identical and synergize with each other to create a hallucinogen and a psychedelic that takes you and teaches you. It's a plant.
It's got to be special.
It's a plant, yeah. And as I said, this is not from a dude that's, you know, well versed in alcohol or drugs or smoking. I'm not that guy.
No.
And I went to a festival. I've never been to a music festival. I got invited one, and I went to a music festival, and I'm sitting there, and people are saying to me, "Oh, have you tried LSD or mushrooms or MDMA?" And I'm like, "Nah, none of that." Have done ayahuasca. Every single one of them. There was about 6 people in the circle. Just their heads turned at me and went, hang on, let me get this right. So you haven't done anything, and you went to the top of the tree and you just hit for the fence with ayahuasca. And I'm like, that's not what you're supposed to do. And they're like, no, dude, no.
You can build up. You earn that.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, okay. I went straight to the top, and no regrets. As I said, I'm an advocate for it. And I believe that if everyone did it, we'd live in a completely different world. But a really close friend of mine did it with me not too long ago, in July last year, and he turned around and he said, Rich, this is not for everyone. Not everyone can do this. This is you have to be courageous to do this.
So do you think...
There's a lot of vomiting and shitting yourself along the way.
I can do it.
There really is.
Not much unlike alcohol. But I really want to do, as we've spoken about, what the reluctancy I have is, what if I see demons that are too much, like that? I'm like, well, I know some of the demons I carry with me. I know what's going on in my life. I've had mushies before and just absolutely had bad trips because of what's going on in my life, and I probably wouldn't touch mushrooms again because of that. But big doses, like trying to get off, you know. So maybe,
but that's the old you. Yeah, that's the old immature you. You're more, you're smarter now. You're a better version of yourself now. So if I was you, and I am a mate of yours, I would turn around to you and go, well, let me sit in. I won't take anything, but I'll make sure that you're okay. So having that peace of mind and making sure that you don't take too much and abuse it. Yeah. You know, for me, everything with regards to psychedelics or ayahuasca is about set and setting. I would never, this is me personally, and I'm not here to judge anyone, but I would never take it in an atmosphere, in a party atmosphere, simply because I use it as a teacher. I use it to teach me and to educate me, you know. But yeah, I would sit with you and I'd go, well, I'll mind you. Yeah. I'll be your minder, you know, and that's sometimes what you need. And people are happy to do that. People that have done psychedelics before will go, I'll sit with you for a couple of hours and make sure that you're okay, and so you're not banging your head or, you know, you're not jumping out third-story windows, which doesn't really happen. But if you take too much, you know, you can have a bad trip. So just having that peace of mind. So there's a lot of people that have done ayahuasca with me previously that have had a bad episode. but they had to go through that. So what we do is we suppress so many feelings and emotions, whether it's from childhood. I think it was Albert Einstein. Someone great once said, "Show me a child 0 to 7 and I'll show you the man."
Yeah.
So
there's a documentary of that.
Is there?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they, just quickly to interrupt, so they filmed children at 7. It's called "Give Me the Boy, I'll Show You the Man."
Yeah.
They filmed a whole heap of people at 7, and then 14, then 21. Then went on 28.
Wow.
I'll
have to look that one up.
Yeah, I think they're still, like last I heard, they're still documenting some of them.
So we've got a lot of programs, subconscious programs and conditioning that we've learnt, and we've suppressed a lot of different emotions. So what ayahuasca does is it basically brings them up. And ayahuasca is known as a purging plant medicine. So beside your bed, you've got a bucket and you purge. But it's not like people perceive purging to be, where it's quite horrible, like if you're hungover and it's not like that. It just comes up almost effortlessly, you know, and through the back door as well. Yeah, seriously. And I don't mean to sound disgusting or anything.
So
but
are you able to go to a toilet? Are you with it? And you're like, I need a shit.
No, you are. You can come out. So I like to go into a meditative state, and then the medicine takes effect and pretty much marches up my body, and then I go under. But I can come out of that at any time if I want to open my eyes. A little bit groggy, but I can find my way to the toilet. Plus, there's helpers there. You know, as I said, set and setting is really important. So you need a good shaman. That's the most important thing. So someone that knows what they're doing. And the shaman's normally got a helper or two to be able to facilitate in what's called hold space. So, but I remember the very first one I did, and purging can come in 3 ways that I've experienced: vomiting, out your back door, and also through crying. So for the I was wearing a T-shirt, and the collar on my T-shirt was completely drenched, and I could wring it out.
From tears.
From tears. Just cried constantly. And I didn't know why. I couldn't stop weeping. But that was a form of purging. So there was a stuck energy in one of my chakras, and I suppressed that my whole life. I've pushed it down. And we all know that we turn around and we go, "Come on, mate, toughen up, harden up, push through this, get through this." And we talk to ourselves and try and motivate ourselves, because that's our conditioning. My old man would have said to me, "Toughen up, harden up." And so whatever feeling or emotion I would have had previously, I've suppressed and pushed down. What ayahuasca does is it brings them up. So you have to sit there and embrace, these stuck energies. And people go, "I'm afraid of what I see." And I've got people in my life that have turned around and gone, "I don't want to revisit some of the horror that I've had previously." And I'm like, "But you're suppressing it."
Yeah,
and anytime
anytime
you're suppressing it, guess what you're attracting? You're attracting more of it. So instead of pushing it down, let it come up. Release it, and then feel lighter. So, and it just changes your mentality with regards to money, and it changes your mentality with regards to
materialism.
Correct.
Yeah.
There's literally a million things, but it's just been such an amazing tool. And there's an old saying: "You don't find ayahuasca; it finds you when the time's right." And you were supposed to do it, but the time's not right for you. But when the time is right, you will do it. But the only advice that I would have is find someone that's that knows what they're doing. Don't do a backyard. Don't do it by yourself.
No.
Do something that's really well supervised. Pay the money, because as that bloke said in the blog, it'll be the best experience you'll ever have. And I've got some very close friends of mine that have come on a retreat with me because they've heard me spruiking it, or they've seen the change in my behaviour. So they've come on board and they've seen the shifts in their mentality and their behaviour, and they also believe that it was a massive catalyst for change in their life, probably nothing bigger. So it's not an isolated incident with me. You speak to anyone that's done it and they'll go, "It'll change you."
Yeah. I'm so super keen. And like you said, if it's, que sera, mate, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
What will be, will be. And
you can't live in fear.
No.
You can't live in fear and go, "Well, if this happens," it's a definition of...
No, I'm in. I'm in. I'm just waiting.
Good. I can't wait.
I'm just waiting for the dates.
Yeah.
I've already, told people in my life, look, there's going to be a weekend when the time comes up, I'm going for it. So
the big thing with ayahuasca for any of your listeners that are listening is, for me, I'm really methodical and meticulous about preparation. 2 weeks beforehand, we go off, if we have any drinks, we go off grog. There's no caffeine, I think we cut out sugar. A week before, there's no onion, garlic, that type of thing. There's no sex, there's no masturbation, none of that. Really? We take it pretty seriously because I believe the better you prepare, the better the medicine has a chance to work. And you get your intention right. And if you get those things right, your preparation and your intention right, you're literally setting yourself up for success,
So that abstinence is a mental thing as well as
correct,
the physical, what's inside your body.
Correct. Yeah. So, it's just one of those things where you set yourself up to go, okay, and every single person's going to have. I don't know anyone that doesn't have anxiety or overwhelm when they get there, because this is a big thing. This is, and even myself at the 11th hour on the day of my very first retreat, I said to my wife, I'm not going.
Yeah.
And it's funny because my intention was not allow fear to control my emotions. I said, I'm not going. She goes, why? I'm like, well, I don't know anything about it. I don't know the person that's really doing it that well. And it could be a backyard job. And who are the other people that are doing it? And I'm just creating all this myself.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I decided differently and I went, and I'm so glad that I did. And as I said, I've done 4 since, and I speak to family members about it, and it's not that they're dismissive, but it's not their journey.
Yeah.
And so I turn around and I just go, I just wish you could experience it, but I fully understand that it's not for. I do respect them, but you just, when people have done it, or you really feel the energy from people that have done it, because there's an instant click. You really know that they're part of your tribe. Yeah. It blows my mind when I've done my 4 retreats that I'm sitting in a room and I've taken ayahuasca and I've come out of it and I'm sitting by a fire, or I'm just sitting there reflecting because you're a bit comatose at the time and you're trying to write in a journal, and you're telling people things that you've known for 12 hours. You've known these people for 12 hours, and you're sharing more with them than you would ever do with anyone else in your life. And because you have no fear of judgment. And I know this sounds far-fetched, but you're literally laying in a room and you can feel the love in the room.
Yeah.
It's an amazing feeling, and everyone feels that. And so you've known these people, you might do a 2-day retreat, and you walk away and you're hugging and you're kissing and you're embracing, and you're creating friends for life, because they've shared that adversity with you and they've been on that track with you. It's
crazy.
As you can see, I love it.
Yeah, I can't wait. Just going back to being scared to do that and how we are conditioned, I was just thinking about, I'm going to fly somewhere soon, and every time I get on a plane, I've got a little bit of a OCD thing where I touch the outside of the plane. I had as a kid. I'd walk into a room and do that with my hands. I always touch the outside of the plane and run my hand down there and say hello to the pilot. Yeah. So we'll do these massive things like trust the pilot, to take us somewhere. The most dangerous place in the world is out in the road. Yeah. And we trust people to stop at a red light and these social norms. But when it comes to something like that, putting something into our body that might better us, we're scared. Or picking up a book and reading, people might be scared to unpack what's in their backpack, Another person I've done some work with, he calls it an invisible backpack. He's like, pull that shit out and look at it. Yeah. So people are scared to do that, but they'll just meander through life and let other people control things for them,
Yeah. And, we're not here to judge, but I don't like that. I like to be I call it life by design, the controller of my own destiny. So, and I always catch myself. I always say, if you're conscious of something, you're 80% there. So the last 20% is just doing the work. So I catch myself and go, is that decision made out of fear? And if it is, I go, well, what's holding you back? So every single problem is an onion, and we get through the first layer or two and we go, oh, that's the solution, but it's not. What's the real cause of it? What's the why, which is the core of the onion? And once you get that and you go, well, I'm feeling this fear and I'm touching this plane and speaking to the pilot because of this. but we don't. We like to lie to ourselves. We like to lie to ourselves, and we do that on a daily basis. So
Yeah, that's true.
you've got to catch ourselves and just go, stop telling yourself and stop being full of shit. Be honest with yourself, because if you can't be honest with yourself, who's the person you communicate with more than anyone else on the planet, which is yourself.
Yeah.
And as I said, life's not happening to you. It's responding to you through your words. Any words that come after I am is going to rule your destiny.
Yeah.
So I am tired. Well, of course you're going to be tired.
I can't.
Instead of saying, instead of saying I am tired, turn around and going, I am feeling like I'm ready for my second wind. Yeah, it's just a change of vocabulary, you know, but that has a massive shift on your mentality and your behavior.
Yeah.
So
I've seen it work with clients, and they, there's this one, he's a cracker. He's like, I can't. Okay, don't call me a cunt.
yeah.
Okay, not allowed to say that when I'm on shift with you. And he'll go from being in this state of, I can't, to 15 minutes later, let's go for a drive. Let's go, and let's go and see the beach. And he just forgets that
he
he's in a
needs
lot
more of
pain.
you in his life.
Yeah,
To get out of that habitual behavior, because he doesn't realize that he's in a program.
Yeah.
His habitual behavior. And habitual behavior normally starts from visual cues. There's something that you see that creates that habitual behavior. So when he sees you, he automatically starts to default into a different mentality. And as soon as he starts to do that, he becomes a better version of himself.
Yeah.
So he needs more people like you around him. And I know that sounds like I'm pumping up your tires, but it's the truth. It's the
We
truth.
need more beats in this world.
That's it.
All right. Well, man, that's yeah, you've answered a few questions there. I hadn't heard that had used any other drugs. All right, so I've got to pick my son up from school, so we've got about another half an hour. I want to go real broad here. Okay, so you say to me a lot. A couple of times you've said to me is that you can do anything in life. Everyone wants to be happy and find their inner peace. What is Ritchie Gibson's advice on how and where to start the journey to achieve these things for someone listening now and they're like, I want to change my life around. I want to make $1 million. I want to be happy, whatever it is. I want inner peace. Where do they start?
You want me to get to the core of the onion?
Yes.
Straight off the bat.
Yes.
No layers. It has to start with education. Yeah. And, our parents said to that, go to school and get an education. But as I said before, the Jim Rohn quote, education will make you a living, but self-education will make you a fortune. If you're not a good reader, there's no reason why you can't watch a YouTube video of that author doing a keynote. It's free. Mm-hmm. So in this day and age, it's just ignorance. So if you want to, you can learn anything, absolutely anything. It's on YouTube or it's on Google. So the only thing that's stopping you is the 2 E's. You'll make an effort, or you'll lean on an excuse. So I've got to go and pick the kids up from school, or you're just leaning on a bullshit line excuse you tell yourself. Stop it. Start with an education. Anything you want to achieve is going to take a bit of time. But, like my wife and I were about to do this trip in this caravan around Australia. I don't know anything about caravanning. Yeah. Nothing. And it's a very, very steep learning curve. But my mentality is I'll learn. I remember the very first time I did yoga, I'm standing down the back and I'm falling over. And I'm like, wow, you really suck at this. And then I'm like, but I won't in 12 months. Yeah. I'll be better. Yeah. And I'm going to educate myself to become better at this, because I know it's going to be good for my back. Same as caravanning. I've saturated myself with knowledge and learnt from whatever you want to do, someone's already done it. You just have to take their recipe and then make it your own and add your own unique point of difference. So just stop listening to your bullshit lies and excuses. Take accountability and responsibility for your life and go, all right, I want to learn how to do this. I want to become a sports writer for a newspaper in 5 years. Great, do that. But where do you start? Okay, well, think of it as a ladder. And a ladder's got rungs on it. And every single rung is a short-term goal, whether it's weekly, monthly, quarterly. And your job as a sports journalist, writer in the newspaper, could be at the top of that, whatever your goal is. So you go, okay, this week I need to do this. You come up with a blueprint. You come up with a plan. Next week I need to do that. You may not get it right, and you may take a step back and go down a rung. But you have to have those short-term goals there to tick off. Otherwise, you will never get to the top. Imagine trying to climb a ladder without rungs. You'll never get to the top. So you have to have these short-term goals. And that's what I come full circle now about that Great Wall of China. We lay one brick today the very best we can. That leads to a week. That leads to a month. You look back with the benefit of hindsight and go, I've got that wall. So whatever you want to achieve, you can achieve in life. And I've got this mentality, and I've written in my book, and in my keynotes, I'm on stage and I walk up to a wall and I bang my hand against the wall. And I say to the audience, see this wall, brick wall? I can walk through this brick wall. Now, 95% of you are saying, it's a brick wall, champ.
Ritchie's on the ayahuasca.
Yeah. You're not going to get through that. It's a brick wall. But I know with obsessive determination and that passion, I can get through that wall if I want to. I know two things to be true. There's going to be sacrifice. There's time away from friends, time away from family, there's going to be obstacles, blood, bone, time in hospital, because I'm not going to get through there overnight. But if my passion and my desire is strong enough, I'll get through that wall.
Yeah. It's a chip away.
Everyone's the same as me. No one's any different. And that wall is a metaphor for anything that you want in life. You can do it if that. But that's what I was saying to you earlier. You've got to follow that energy. Most people get led down a road of like, here's a carrot at the end of a stick and it's got a financial figure in front of it.
That's what you should be chasing.
That's right.
Yeah.
But when you follow your energy and you start to go, no, this is what I want to do, you'll find that unrelenting desire and that passion and that determination to walk through any brick wall. Like you with your podcast,
you read my mind. What's the word I'm thinking? Attribute all of what you're saying to this. So the wall. So what am I going to do? I literally wrote out a plan. Then what? You're going to need microphones. You're going to need one of these boards. You buy that. Start asking people, will you come on as a guest? And the reason I'm still doing, I was going to chuck it in last year because something happened in my life, but I'm like, no, I just enjoy it, and I'm just chipping away at it, and
you'll meet someone,
and
that'll lead to something else,
and then there's this, and it just has the last, like, especially this year, the domino effect it's had on who I've met and the branches that open. Even this will open up another one.
What kind of people are you meeting doing this podcast?
Well, people like yourself.
Correct. And you are who you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
So you're starting to change your tribe. So one thing I learned about ayahuasca is this is really hard. This is a really tough conversation, this one. But when you do ayahuasca, you start to think differently. You start to understand what programming and conditioning is, and you start to change your perspective on how you see things. Everyone that does ayahuasca is exactly the same, in a good way. And I used to say, I've stepped through or I've looked through a curtain, and I'm starting to look through this curtain and peek through, but it's not a curtain, it's actually a door. And I've walked through the door. The problem is the door has locked and shut behind me, and I can't go back. And now I look back over 50 years and I go, but all my friends and all my family and and everything I know is on the other side of that door. But my soul is on the other side of the door and pulling me and going, come on, dude. I want to take you on a ride. I've got an amazing life for you. And I'm like, yeah, but everyone I know and everything's on that side, and the way I think is on that side of the door. And they're like, don't worry about it. Just come with me. But I don't want to leave them behind. So eventually when you grow, people will start to, when you start to move up on the elevator of life, you'll start to let people off. And that's okay. They'll come into your life for a season, a reason, or a lifetime. But they will come and people will drop away, and that's okay. But what that's doing is clearing space for new people to come in that are part of your tribe, that get you, that go, hey,
100% at the moment in my
so
life.
That's what's happening. That's what's happening with you. You're going through this shift. You've walked through the door. It may not have locked. You can go back. I don't think you ever will. But the door may have locked, and your soul now is pulling you this way, and you're like, hey, I've got Ritchie. I've got, is it Jeff that you mentioned?
Jeff Morgan,
I've got all these different guys and people in your life that are going to inspire you, and you're going to inspire them, and we're going to create this unbelievable energy. Come with me. And you're like, yeah, but everything just come with me.
Yeah.
Come with me. And that's what I learnt with ayahuasca. And Jay, for 2 years I've been sitting in that door, and I want to create a visual for you, like a 5-year-old stamping their feet going, no, everything's on that side of the door. My friends, my family, everything I know is on there. I'm not going to move from this door. And just in recent times, I'm like, fuck it.
Yeah.
I'm moving away from the door and I'm going to start doing my thing, and it's liberating. And some people have fallen away, but new people have come in, and I've got to witness this, and they speak my language now. They're part of my tribe. They juice me. You know, I love spending time with them. You know, it's not a drag. They're energy givers, not energy vampires. You know, so. So that's what a big thing that ayahuasca did for me. But for me, that analogy, that's where you are. You're on that side of that door. You thought about throwing this in, but you've gone, no, I'm going to persist. And all of a sudden, your tribe's starting to shift, and you're becoming a better version of yourself. You start to influence your kids differently, and that'll have compounding effects. Once you're dead and buried, that'll compound into your kids, your grandkids, all because of you. It started with you.
That's right. You hear that, grandkids? No, I feel like legacy is a big thing for me. Like I was asked the question the other day in some form of program or a book or something I was doing. What is important to me? And that's what I could come up with. Like legacy. I want to leave things behind. I want to leave. So my music, the podcast. I have boxes at home that are like full, boom, dad stuff. It's for the kids that name on it. Do not throw it out.
Yeah.
So when they go through this, a little treasure box.
It's an heirloom.
Yeah, heirloom. So that's I'm huge on that because I didn't get, like, my sister passed away so suddenly and my father passed away so suddenly, and then it was quickly grasp what you could.
Yeah.
So I'm big on, well, don't worry, fear not, kids. I've got a box here with your name on it for you. So legacy and heirlooms and.
Do you know? I think for you, I think I always say, when you're writing a new chapter of your book, don't allow anyone else to hold the pen. I think for people like you and I, when we were younger, we allowed other people to hold the pen. And now we're turning around and going, no, the pen stays with me. I get to write this and I get to do this. I know I'm on the wrong side of a lot of hard work, but my non-negotiables are this, this and this.
Yeah.
And you're not going to stop me. I'm going to walk through that brick wall. Yeah. I'm going to get there, of course. It may take a bit of time, but I'm loving what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So...
And they say enjoy the journey.
That's it.
It's about the journey, not the destination.
100%.
Yeah, I've set some pretty big boundaries in my life recently, and I've set some pretty big goals. And I think I've told you about a few of them. I'm not going to say I'm on air, the boundaries, but the goals, I just cannot see myself. I just can't see anything getting in my way. Like I'm that far away from hitting purchase on the tickets to Peru.
Wow.
Like you've
got to do ayahuasca when you're over there.
Yeah,
I
met a bloke in the gym. Remember I said this morning, I need to find someone who's been there.
Yes.
And I met old mate at the gym. He's like, I'll tell you all about it. I'll get you a number for a Sherpa. Don't go with the fucking, the companies. I got someone and we talked about putting that energy out there. So I just can't see anything.
It's not happening to you, it's responding to you.
Well, there you go,
How
mate.
Good.
So
How good. I reckon we should even, whatever it takes in order for you to get there, because you inspire and motivate so many people. So sometimes it's good to give back, whether it's a GoFundMe page for Jay to get over to Peru. And then you could write a blog or do a podcast of what it's like over there. I'm
going to take my shit with me. I have this same thing here, the same desk.
Yep.
I'll take that and a microphone, both 2 microphones, and because you know what, it's like every time I take my camera out with me, I'm like, why did I bother bringing that? But the day I don't have my camera, I'm like, fuck, look at that photo I could take, and I do not want to meet someone. I might even condense it into a Zoom hand recorder, and just get these small moments,
snippets.
A friend of mine who's been a guest on here, he travelled through, I think, Indonesia and maybe South America. And he just took, he called it field notes. He just recorded and he came back and he made beats with it.
Oh, wow.
So he'd be in the market and he'd record and he came back and so his wife took the photos and then he came back and he printed a 7-inch record to go with it.
How good is that?
Yeah, and they're amazing. Like, so I don't want to be there and go, fuck, I should be recording this. Because everywhere I go now, because I'm so entrenched in this podcast, people talk to me, I'm like, stop.
Yeah.
Do you want to come in and have like that copper, that ex-copper?
Scott.
Yeah. I'm like, straight away I said, look, I'm not promising you anything, but I would like to have a discussion and see if you wanted to come on because everyone has a story.
Of course.
Everyone has a story, like the amputee young girl, Georgie that came on, stop.
Yeah.
Will you come on the show? Yeah. And I loved it. I really enjoyed that.
You just got to make sure when you go to Peru, you got the 7 Ps. Prior preparation and planning prevents piss poor performance.
Waterproof shoe. I've got a list, and this is another thing that I was taught by. I've always done it, but it was reiterated by Jeff Morgan. So research, what's first? Better get my passport.
Yeah.
Boots, better wear them in.
Yeah.
And like the training I'll be doing at the gym.
Yeah.
So, the oxygen deprivation. So
Yeah.
I'm going to look real funny at the gym soon.
That's all right.
Wearing a mask and leather
That's
boots
right.
and stuff. But some of the things you don't realize is, insect spray, Band-Aids, thongs, a good backpack, sleeping bag. So these are the things that
Dry socks
being waterproof. So they're the things I can do here.
So where did all that start? Education.
Education.
Yeah. You decided on a goal, and then you decided to educate yourself.
Yeah, I'm not going in there blind and catching a train there. I want to walk. I want to do the 4 to 6 day walk.
Well, anytime we do anything, you have to set yourself up for success, not failure. So how are you setting yourself up for success? The more you can dot the I's and cross the T's and do your due diligence and learn from other people's mistakes, the better you'll be served when you do the trip, and more enjoyable. Imagine if you went over there blind, you bought a ticket and you just went over there and you stumbled.
Didn't have waterproof shoes.
You would have a horrible time. Yeah. But you set yourself up for failure. Yeah. So how do you set yourself up for success? And that's no different to what we're doing at the moment with the caravanning. We're just trying to set ourselves up for success so that as soon as we hit the road, it's enjoyable, and we go, wow, we're loving this. Yeah, but we did all the work for 6 months beforehand to get here. Yeah. It's the same with anything.
Training for a fight. Like you go in there, if you're that trained, you're ready, you just jump in the ring, boom, 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 boom. Yeah, those P's is really good.
Yeah, 7 P's. That's something we used to say in the army. Prior preparation and planning prevents piss poor performance.
That's a huge one. All right, let's look at the time. Yeah, I'm pretty keen to get over there. What was I going to say just then? I don't know. My mind's there's a lot to take in, Ritchie. This is like a lecture, mate. Okay.
Maybe we might have to do a part 2.
Yeah, man. Always keen for part 2s. So we'll talk about the new book coming out.
Yep.
I have a signature question that I ask everyone, and then from the book, Be Great, at the end of every chapter, Ritchie has a takeaway. So I want your takeaway for the audience for this podcast. But before we do that, I want to go back to the signature question, and then we'll plug your book, and then we'll do your takeaway. So the signature question is, and people have asked me where I got this from. I have no idea. I don't know if I stole the idea, if I created it. I just have said it for so long now that it is part of the show. So if you could write down a small piece of advice on a fortune cookie, piece of paper, put it inside a fortune cookie and send that back to yourself in time, what would the advice be?
Well, there's a whole chapter in my book on what would you say to your 15-year-old self. What advice would you give to your 15-year-old self?
Maybe I stole it from you.
Yeah. That's a tough one because there's a whole chapter there of advice that I'd give my 15-year-old self. So
you got about...
I'm looking for a fortune cookie.
5 or 6 words.
Follow your passion and your energy, because it's telling you and trying to guide you where you need to be. If you don't do that, you'll be led by other people and you'll end up going down a path that's probably not designed for you, and all you're trying to do is impress them. That will lead to, as I mentioned before, the weight of expectation. It'll lead to the comparison game, which is a very slippery slope and something that you don't want to be down. Your life basically is a one-horse race, and the only person you compete against is the very best version of yourself. So what would I write on a fortune cookie? I would write this: stay in your lane. Beautiful. Because that's the best advice I could give. And there's, I talk for a living, so there's a lot of advice that I do give, but stay in your lane, because the great Joseph Campbell once said, it takes courage to do what you want to do because other people have got a lot of plans for you.
Yeah.
And it's so true. And we get caught up in the weight of expectations of what others want from us, whether it's our family, whether it's our parents, whether it's our peer group. And we move away from the things that really light us up because we're worried about what people will think and how they will see us and will be judged. Your uniqueness is what sets you apart. It took me 48 years to work that out, and ayahuasca helped me with that. But I no longer try and be everything to everyone because it is so, and I need to say this word to emphasize a point, it is so fucking draining. It is so draining when you try and be everything to everyone. So my advice is don't. Stay in your lane, and people will come, people will go, people will drop out of your life. That's okay, because just understand that's clearing the way for someone that's like-minded to you, and your energy will attract them into your life.
And be guilt-free about that. I've had it. Heard people come into my life and leave, and I'm like, do I need to feel guilty about not seeing that person anymore and not contacting? I'm like, well, it is what it is.
It's always a two-way street, and that guilt can be crippling, absolutely crippling. But you can't let it control you. You have to turn around and be stronger than that and go, you know what? And the Anthony DeMello book that I just finished reading, Awareness, he said there's a big difference between loneliness and being alone.
Yes.
So loneliness is one thing, but being alone is good. You know, we meditate alone. We capture.
I'm just learning that.
Yep.
I'm just learning that.
Myself as well. As well.
All right. Normally when I have musicians on, I ask them top 5 rappers that are alive. What is the top 5 books you would recommend that listeners read?
What an awesome question. Top of the tree would have to be...
I'm going to write them down.
Yep. Top of the tree, and the one that inspired me the most was Anthony Robbins' Unleash the Power Within. What a great book that is. All of Anthony Robbins' stuff is brilliant.
When I was younger in a rap song, I dissed him, had a go at him.
Yep.
And I said to him the other day, I'm like, why did I ever say that? The man's a fucking genius.
He is a genius. Sometimes he can come across as a bit salesy, but he's evolved into that. He wasn't like that previously, you know, but he's still an unbelievable catalyst for inspiration for people globally, you know.
Yeah. All right. So that's one.
Don Miguel Ruiz, his book is called The Four Agreements. Very small book, but very, very powerful. He talks about there's 4 agreements in life. The third one would probably be, it depends on you know, where you want to go down. I've become quite spiritual in the last 3 years, so I really enjoyed Gabrielle Bernstein's book called The Universe Has Your Back. Very, very good book. Joe Dispenza's book called Becoming Supernatural, that unpacked a lot of things for me, and I think that's one of the greatest books that I've ever read. It can be quite hard to get your head around at times.
What's his name, sorry?
Dr. Joe Dispenza. And but if you stay with it and you revisit it, and as I said, he's got a 13-part series on Gaia, which is called Rewired. You may even be able to get some of it on YouTube. But he's an amazing mind. But on the weekend, I had my wife and another close friend who was up, and they said, I can't stand him. There's something about his voice, he just grinds on me. So he's not for everyone. But for me, I think he's an absolutely brilliant mind. And for me, 20 years on, he's the Anthony Robbins of modern day.
Right.
Obviously, my book, B.U.B. Great. Got to plug that one. And I've got 160 books on Audible on my phone.
Jesus, we're not going to get through that.
But I'll give you one more, and I'll give you Awareness, the one that I've just finished reading by Anthony DeMello.
Yeah. And
the reason I like that is because he's a psychologist / priest, and he was big in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. But he's so brutal. He's so honest, and that's the way that I would like to write my future books. I want to be brutal and honest, and if people don't like it, send them love, wish them well, but you're not for me, you know. But my tribe will come. You know, I listen to Joe Rogan, and a lot of people go, I don't like him because of this. Well, there's 100 million people that do like his. So
there's 350 million reasons, man.
Correct, yeah, and for whatever, you know, but he's got his tribe, and Anthony DeMello is extremely honest, extremely blunt. You know, he says things like, contemplate the horror of this. And you're like, it's almost like he's hitting you in the face with his words. So that's extremely powerful as well.
I'm going to try and get onto those. I do know for a fact that a lot of listeners are bookworms, because I've contemplated having little smaller episodes.
Book club.
Yeah, I have contemplated, but it just never goes anywhere.
Do you know, here's an idea for you. And the reason I got onto Anthony DeMello was because I watched a guy called Aubrey Marcus. who I'd highly recommend. If you're into spirituality and you want to know about ayahuasca and things like that, he's done it plenty of times. Quite a spiritual guy. Aubrey Marcus is brilliant. He's been on Joe Rogan before, and he says, and he does this thing called Aubrey Marcus Podcast, and then he started this new thing with a book review where he'll read a chapter from his favourite book. Mm-hmm. He'll put the book down, which might take 5-10 minutes, and then he'll do a quick synopsis on what his thoughts are about that book in that chapter. Mm. And so it's a 17-minute clip, and it's Aubrey Marcus talking about Anthony DeMello's book, The Way to Love, which was the very first Anthony DeMello book I read. And it's just so powerful. So maybe that's a good idea for you to do.
I have invited a few listeners to give their recommendations and why, but it just comes through so sporadic. I haven't followed up, but cool. I might get onto that. All right, so the last one we'll do is the Ritchie takeaway. What is your final advice for people that you would like them to remember / learn from this episode?
Probably what I elaborated on before. Stop trying to be everything to everyone and be the best version of yourself. But I have a lot of mentees that turn around, or people in my life that come to me and they go, you know what, I'm 30, I'm 40, I'm 50. I didn't think I'd be this far in debt, or I thought I'd own my own home. I thought I'd have not as much credit card debt, or I thought I'd be happier. And the first thing I do is I say to them, for me, my most valuable thing in my life is my time. So money will come and go, but time is a non-redeemable commodity that I'll never get back. So where am I investing my most valuable asset? And once I start to peel back that onion with these people and I go, okay, so you're not where you want to be in your life. So let's see where you're spending your most valuable asset. And they might be spending an hour on social media too, 2 or 3 hours on watching TV, mindless TV, without educating themselves. And I'm like, I'm not here to judge you. I've never walked a mile in your shoes, so I'm not here to do that. But how can you expect to lead a positive life and move forward in life and land on your feet and set yourself up for success if you're not educating yourself, or you're giving yourself mind-numbing TV where you're just being, it's propaganda. You're being programmed. So what do you expect? So if you even take 1 hour of that and you find something that juices you, and you go down that rabbit hole. I call it rabbit holes. I call it the apprenticeship mindset, where I get this real thirst for learning, and I'm like, okay, time to go down this rabbit hole. I've done it with so many different things, but find something and watch videos on it, or pick up a book, or make an investment in yourself and in your time. At
least buy the book.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Jim Rohn.
That's it. So, in saying that, and I think I mentioned to you this at the gym. So anyone that's like me, that's interested in an audio book, I'd like to offer you.
Yeah, beauty.
Yeah, a digital version of my audio book. Yeah. And it's not my voice. It's not going to put people to sleep. They're not going to crash their car and die. But I would like to offer it to them, as a listener of your podcast.
Awesome.
Complimentary. I don't know how you would set it up, whether you put it on your website or whatnot, but we can work around that. But as a complimentary gift for having me on and my way of showing appreciation, it's a small way to be able to give back. And once you start to slip into that mindset, it's called the law of reciprocity, and this is one of my favourite things. So I've written hundreds of blogs in my time, but my favourite one is called Life is an Echo. And if you get onto my website, BUBGreat, or ritchiegibson.com, you'll see there's a tab there for blogs. If you go through the blogs, there's one called Life is an Echo, and it talks about the law of reciprocity. And the law of reciprocity means whatever you want in life, you have to give first. If you want love, you have to give love first. If you want money, you have to give money first. And then vibrational frequency and life responds to you.
And reciprocates.
But think about it. We get it wrong. What we do is we go, when I win lotto, I'm going to give back, and it's not the way it works. When you love me and you're kind to me, I'm going to be kind to you. No, it's not how it works. Yeah. Law of reciprocity states, whatever you want, you have to give first. So whatever it is that your listeners want in their life, just understand you have to be giving it first before you'll receive it. And that could be a bitter pill to swallow, but whatever it is, that's something you need to practice and watch how your life changes.
Unbelievable. Good way to end,
You're
then.
the man. You're the man.
You're the man. Shake my hand.
Thank you, buddy.
No worries. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So go to it's ritchiegibson.com.
Yep, with a T, R-I-T-C-H.
RITC. I'll put that in the show notes. Guys, reach out to me through the DMs if you want a copy. You have actual CDs of it?
I've got CDs, but they'll probably cost a small fortune to post. But if you, I'm happy to give away the MP3 CDs that'll slip into your car or your MP3 player. But that's a bit old school. But if you want a digital version that you can just whack on your phone, I've got a Dropbox file.
All right, we'll do that.
Yep.
Yeah, there you go. So anyone interested in that, hit me up in the DMs and we'll get it to you. And it's this book here.
Be You, Be Great.
Yep, Be You, Be Great. All right, that is it, listeners. That was Ritchie Gibson. Be You, Be Great. And this is me signing out. I got to go pick up my kid, and then it's not an excuse. Another daytime recording. Thank you so much for coming on, brother. And let's get on to that ayahuasca retreat, hey?
Let's do it.
Cheers,
Thank you,
mate.
my friend.
Thanks.